Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV's podcast 322 special election night podcast.
Terry, I'm looking at the election results behind us on our big screen TV.
And we're going to call it, aren't we, John?
We're calling it for the night. It's definitely Kinga. Kinga is the winner tonight. He will be our Smashbox guest and really the only one who matters.
Absolutely looking forward to it tonight. Coming all the way from the west coast of Australia, we are going to have Kingsley Flett, who's going to talk to us about some things going on over in Australia, some very exciting stuff that is in the works. And yes, on a very timestamp real note, yes, the presidential election and other elections taking place as we speak. And as we're starting at 9 o'clock, clearly
half the country is done voting.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, clearly there's a little more hesitation, I feel like, this year than probably any other year in terms of trying to call anything or talk about results or details. We're going to leave that all unfold, whether it's for the rest of the night or the rest of the week or month or year, whatever it is. We're going to let all those things unfold. But I feel like it perfectly fits into the rest of the 2020 COVID year that we've had, that this feels like kind of an odd night overall.
I'm drinking regardless of the results, Terry. Either I'm going to drink to celebrate, I'm going to drink to drown my sorrows, I'm going to drink with our friend Kinga.
Well, either way, again, we're not going to get into the politics side of things. We do both sincerely hope, though, that you at least did take it upon yourself to find some form of basis or background or information to then choose whatever candidate, either that was already offered to you or that you possibly were writing in, whatever the case was. We just hope that you performed your duty and your right to go out and do such activity today. So I will say, in my neck of the woods, about 30 minutes
Did you
west
vote
of
today?
Johnny, I did. And interestingly enough, it was exactly what I thought it would be, which was I went around 11 a.m. I went to the local technical college, which is just about a mile and a half from my house, and I was in and out of there in, I don't even know if it was a full 5 minutes. There was exactly 0 people in front of me, 0 people behind me, in and out in under 5 minutes. I realize that in a lot of ways I'm very blessed that I live in a relatively small suburb of Milwaukee. So it's been pretty quick and easy and painless. I've heard quite a few other stories of others that not quite as easy, or maybe my timing is just really good because I have a little bit more flexible schedule. I had to ask the boss if I could go today, and he said, yeah.
As Terry's pointing to himself as he's the boss. I early voted, so we took care of that about 2 weeks ago.
All right.
And myself and my wife and all my dead relatives I voted for.
Come on, Kanye.
I'm rooting for Kanye.
I was going to write him in on something, but I didn't remember how to spell his name. Is it K-A-Y or K-A-N-E? K-A-N? I did see I don't want to waste this vote.
He unfortunately lost his home state of Montana, so that's already been called for Trump. So sorry, Kanye, your bid to be president this year fell a little short, but maybe go out and get him next time, Slugger.
He's got it. All right. Well, we'll leave it at that. But again, just an interesting timestamp on the night. This is not our first election night here with SmashBoxxTV, but just historic nonetheless. We know there's so much on the line, no matter how you look at it, no matter who you vote for. We see some of our regular friends and fans and fellow people out there all interacting. Ace Run is a great partner of ours. They say that they are out there currently doing some editing, so we're looking forward to that, saying editing as we speak. And I know that they were covering some Hub City action this last weekend.
Awesome.
So very cool, and I'll get the plug in right away. If you haven't seen it already, yes, as promised last week, just a day or two later, I was able to get up all of the Las Vegas footage, and hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I've got all of round 1 was put together in one video, which was about 44 minutes because it just had 3 people on it. And then rounds 2 and 3 were broke up into front and back nines. So those are all available. I'm going to put together maybe a top 10 in the next day or two. But other than that, Las Vegas Halloween Classic presented by Legacy is available for you to watch.
Very, very cool.
Oh, one more plug early? Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Just today, I did get news, though, from the local 30 minutes south of us, the local municipality, the Park and Rec Department, that with the COVID details and plans that come with the PDGA and some other precautions, I will be, in fact, hosting the Cold Turkey 15. It's a PDGA C tier, clearly in its 15th year. Super excited that they finally were able to grant us. I've been sitting in limbo now for a couple weeks, and they said that the plan looked good. I'm going to split it up over 2 days, so we'll have more people overall, but it'll be a little bit more spread out. We'll do trophy only. We'll do all the online, the players meeting online, which I've been doing anyway before this year. I've done a few times. We'll go all digital scoring, which I'm very excited to utilize at a tournament I'm running. So all of those things will be implemented. So the 2 days following Thanksgiving, or I should say the Saturday and Sunday, depending on which division you play in, Cold Turkey 15 taking place down in Kenosha County, Wisconsin, which is just over the Illinois border. So it's on the good side, just north of the Illinois border. And hope you can come join us. I hope to have registration available by tomorrow night. If you want to sponsor it, well, you can reach out to me for that. All right, Johnny. Do you want to go over a couple quick results from the weekend before we pull in from Australia? We're going to spoil the Hub City details. So if you're waiting for Ace Run Productions and their coverage, then you want to tune out for a moment, because Johnny's going to quickly just recap a couple of the top finishers in MPO and FPO.
All right. Yes. Thanks, Ace Run. You can find this on their YouTube page shortly. But so plug your ears. I'll give you a little signal when we're done here, so to not ruin your surprise. So let's get to the official Open results. Taking first place is one Richard Wysocki. You may have heard of him. He is a two-time world champion. He won by 2 strokes over Chris Littlehouse Dickerson. Third place was Zach Melton. Fourth place, tie with Evan Scott, Corey Ellis, and Paul Ulibarri. Seventh place, Raven Newsom, tied with Nico LaCastro. And ninth place was Cameron Messerschmidt. Rounding out the top 10, might as well give him his props, MJ Michael Johansson. Going down to the Open Women, we see Ellen Widboom take this one home. She wins by 3 strokes over Deanne Carey. Third place, Elaine King. I know Elaine had an early lead. I saw her post on social media, but she couldn't quite keep up that pace. Fourth place was Taylor Kramer, and fifth place, Sarah Cunningham. So congratulations. Only because I see it, Pro Masters 40+, taking that one, Barry Schultz, former Wisconsin homeboy. So congratulations to all those winners. You can unplug now. We're done. So congratulations to all the people at the Hub City.
Also, in seeing Elaine as runner-up, I think you just mentioned, celebrated a birthday in the last 2 days ago. So happy birthday to Elaine King.
Let's move over to Oklahoma. The Oklahoma Open presented by Innovis Golf. Tournament director, Devin Owens.
Mm-hmm.
Devin Owens, who we had on the show a few months ago. Winning this one, a name that you really don't... Well, I don't know if we've ever even talked about him on the show, other than maybe bringing him up in a second, third, or fourth place, but Logan Harpool. Congratulations to Logan. PDGA number 101319, rated 1,004, beating some really big hitters in Bo Tillman, Emerson Keith. Tied for fourth place was Luke Humphreys, Coda Hatfield, Austin Hannum, and Kevin Jones. So Logan just honestly just scorching it out there, shooting a 10.56 rated first round, followed up by a 10.23 and then a 10.11. That first round was really enough to kind of keep him afloat. Second round, he had tied for the hot score as well. And then third round, he lost a few strokes, but he had a few to give. So congratulations to Logan. In the Open women's field, I mean, Katrina Allen, just she took first, second, and third place with her score. She shot a 1 under par, 964, 966, 977, and beat the second place, Lindsay Langley, by 28 strokes. So that was...
Katrina was on.
Not only was she on, but the competition wasn't necessarily up to the her normal
They weren't
competition
up
levels.
to challenging Katrina.
Correct.
Specifically.
Yes, because you're looking at a couple like 850 rated players. So
Okay.
congratulations to them. Props for playing in the open women's field, Lindsay Langley and Chelsea Harden, who both cashed for about $240. So
Sweet.
that's awesome. And I said it for the other one. So Pro Masters, Kyle Wilkes, congratulations. You won Pro Masters 40 plus.
Very nice. Also, there was a note out there by Logan, and I saw also a message by Dynamic, I think, at one point today. He talks a little bit about it on his Facebook feed. Congratulations to him. But he also mentions that GK Productions will have it on YouTube, of course. GK Pro will have the footage as well. And I just love how he talks about he talks about not necessarily playing perfectly as it came down the stretch, as you just mentioned, Johnny, but I'm reading off his post where he says, I live for the pressure, the massive gallery, the cameras, throwing down with Bo, KJ, and Emerson. Everything about this experience was awesome. And then having his brother by his side as his caddy for the entire event was also awesome. And we didn't even talk disc golf, which is pretty cool. And shout out to Devin and Jason Schwacke for the event. So congratulations, Logan, and very, very cool to see some winners from throughout the weekend. All right. I think without further ado, we're going to see if we can get him dialed up here in just a few moments. We'll have to see what the experience is like on the other side of the world, as we're going to check in with one Kingsley Flett here in just a few moments, as Johnny's going to get him ready to go. It looks like he is, and wow, a little bit. We're experiencing a little heat wave here in Wisconsin.
It was almost 70 degrees today.
Almost 70 today. Not exactly typical for when you're in the first week of November, and we're going to have it for a few days, but I don't think that really compares to what we're seeing here. So coming in from our Disc Baron digital green room, Mr. Kingsley Flett. Kinga.
Hey, guys.
How are you, my friend?
I'm doing pretty well by the beach here.
So Johnny V has queued things up. So as he's showing us right now, maybe you can see it as well. Johnny's going to pan back just a little. Describe where you are.
Okay, well, when the Dorr family settled this area back in the late 1800s, it was named Dawesville. They had two sons, Mel and Ross, and they named the beach that you can see behind me Melross Beach. So it's near the nearest city is Mandurah, which is about an hour south of our capital city of Perth in the southwest of Western Australia. Perth being the most isolated capital city in the world, I think. Our closest capital city here is Denpasar, Indonesia, not Melbourne or Sydney. So we're right on the other side of the rock, right on the other side of Australia.
Wow, just
as far away. I was just going to say about as far as I can get from you guys without being an astronaut. Which is a joke I told you before we went to air, Terry, but it bears repeating.
It does. I mean, it was well worth it so everybody else could hear it.
Yes, and I feel like there's at some point there's a husband or wife that's probably filing that one away right now about how far they could send somebody without being an astronaut. So, Kinga, just to give a little bit of backstory, and I know you heard me. You happened just to log on a few weeks ago when I was gushing about just how highly I think of you, and I know the disc golf community, especially in Australia, but now the world, as you've done a number of shoots of photos, along with the journalism that we've seen from Alta World and also in some of the PDGA publications, but give everyone just a little bit of backstory for those who haven't had the pleasure of hanging out in Thailand or hanging out in Australia with you. Give us a little bit of backstory about yourself.
Well, I first saw disc golf when I was traveling in California in 1986 at Morley Field. So I saw it a long time ago, but didn't actually pick the sport up until I was 44. My actual background professionally is I'm a phys ed, what do you call them in the US? A PT teacher.
A Phi Ed teacher? Yeah, a Phi Ed teacher.
Phi Ed, yep. Phi Ed, yep. That was my training, and then I followed that through academically into biomechanics and mainly applied that in industry, not in sports. with injury prevention and things like that. But all at the same time, I was writing as a hobby, and I was heavily involved in the early years of triathlon, and I went travelling through Asia for a couple of triathlon magazines covering some endurance sports over there. And one of the editors that I was writing for at the time said, you could save us a lot of money and hassle if you could take some photographs as well. So I got a camera and started taking photos. And it just kind of gradually took over. The side hustle sort of gradually took over the years. I got an opportunity to write a book in 2008, which was published here in Australia. It was actually almost a bestseller. Well, it was a bestseller, but it wasn't the biggest bestseller of the year. But that did quite well. And yeah, so I just sort of gradually morphed into more of a writer, a photographer over the years. And with disc golf, it was just a natural thing. As soon as I started playing, I sort of started including a camera in my bag because it seemed like such a great sport to photograph. And it's a great sport to tell stories about, but also visually it's a great sport because it's so balletic and athletic, but it's also full of drama, and there's always the pauses. So it's got the drama and the characters of golf, as well as the sort of the gymnastic beauty of the way people throw. So yeah, it was just naturally a natural thing for me to do, to start taking photographs, and it kind of went from there to the relationship with Ultiworld and etc. Meeting your good self, Tezza, in Thailand. In Australia. Sorry, we met in Canberra.
Yeah, it was almost 2 years ago, the Australian Disc Golf Championships. Thanks to the crew over there, Luke being one of the point men over there, getting me to be able to come experience it and film and put together coverage from that event. And then when that was all transpiring, that was hanging out with you and a few other Australians for an extended weekend, which turned into I don't know if that was 7 or 10 days when it was all said and done. But and then just to know that literally months later, we were reuniting and found each other again in Thailand, and then able to go back there again as we've experienced Koh Samui and some other fun adventures. And obviously now this year, so much of that everything really put on, the brakes were pumped. So I'll follow that up before we get to more disc golf. But you've traveled internationally to dozens of countries, and
I guess, yeah. I pretty much haven't done Africa and much of Europe, but almost everywhere else. Yeah, done most of the US. In fact, I've probably seen more of the US than a lot of my US friends, besides yourself, Terry. Yeah, a little bit of South Central America, all of Asia, all of Southeast Asia, New Zealand, etc. Nepal, India. Yeah.
So I guess my question that's buried in there is, for someone like yourself doing all of these other activities and hustles and career and the jobs that you've been hired for or contracted for, this year has to be equally as damaging to someone like yourself. I mean, you're used to being gone for weeks or months at a time in multiple countries, aren't you?
Yeah, but interestingly, the state I'm in, Western Australia, I think we've had a total of 11 cases of COVID or something like that. It's ridiculous. The state's been shut down, and in fact, the country's been shut down, so people can't travel between states. But we've been in this little a non-COVID island, so all the travel within Western Australia has been happening as normal. The state still earns a fair bit of income via its export, via its natural resources, oil, gas, and iron ore. And so what's happened is all that money has been ploughed back into the state rather than people travelling overseas. So there's been a boom in internal travel in WA, and I've been working with a hotel chain here, writing travel guides and telling travel stories within Western Australia, talking about our own heartland. But despite what you can see behind me, I've always said there's more to Western Australia than just beaches and beach resorts. We've got a heartland and a story, and so I've been spending my time doing that.
Now,
so no, it's been anything.
I was just going to follow that up and talk a little bit about Perth. When people think frequently of the big disc golf tournaments, Perth and what was held there a few years ago, which was the major, was that the Aussie Open that was called,
yes.
Right?
Not on the Disc Golf World Tour.
Yes, on the Disc Golf World Tour.
Yeah.
Immediately people rightfully so, think of Australian disc golf with what happened in Perth. And when I was there, I was along the entire eastern side of the country, and really, I don't want to say I didn't have any used to be in Perth, but everything was on the eastern side. But yet Perth is like, it's almost its own little country over there. I mean, totally removed and remote. I mean, I kind of compared it to like someone being in LA versus being in, Miami, Florida. Like, you're on two opposite ends geographically, and two totally different cultures and worlds almost, aren't you?
Yeah, it's 3 days drive and a 4 to 5 hour flight, depending on which way you go. I think actually in history, Terry, they've tried to be a separate country a couple of times as well.
We've got Texas. We know how that goes.
Yeah. It's interesting because whenever I meet a Texan, we have a very similar sense of humour. West Aussies and Texans seem to have a very similar sense of humour, strangely. So there's some affinity between the two places. And when Paige Pierce was here, and we were talking about how blisteringly hot it was, because during that Aussie Open in 2017, they were basically playing on a par 68 frying pan, and I asked Paige about what she thought about it, and she just shrugged her shoulders and went, "Just like Texas." So she was perfectly comfortable.
Yeah, she certainly had a little bit of a home field advantage, so to speak, when she was there for that. Let's talk about the culture of Perth disc golf versus the entire, everywhere else. And I don't know if that's a fair way to categorize it, but that's how I perceived it. You have Perth, and then you really have everywhere else. Is there a lot of travel when there's is it only for big events? What is it like if somebody, when tournaments are happening? Do people stay regionally, or do they make those big cross-continent trips?
It's changed in the time that I've been playing. Originally, the tribe in Australia was so small that any opportunity to get together, people generally took. So there was quite a posse of us West Aussies. They call us sandgropers, by the way. There's quite a posse of us sandgropers who would it's a little insect of some sort of sandgroper.
Okay.
But there was quite a posse of us who travelled over to the east to go to most of the main tournaments. But now that we've got so many courses and such a big scene here in Western Australia, and when I started playing, we had one course. Now we've got 12 or 13 in the city. And so there's less temptation or less need to travel. And the people who travel over to the nationals and over to the big tournaments over east are usually just a small, hard core of competitive open players who are trying to win the Aussie Tour. So, yeah, it's changed a bit.
So what I thought was amazing when I was there, maybe amazing is not the word, it was just a little bit different, was the fact that we were the Australian Championships, like what was that, November of 2018. Am I doing that right? Yeah, I think it was November of 2018. You guys were ecstatic. It was 100 and some people, 100, maybe a little over 100, maybe 105, something in that neighborhood. And everybody was kind of rejoicing about that size of turnout. And we think, obviously, just with the different player base, with the different, how compact our players are and the demographics, 72, 90 people, 110 people, that's happening every weekend in literally 30 different cities. And
it's a league night, Charlotte. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a league night at some big courses. You're exactly right. How much has the disc golf scene grown in terms of the player base, and how are you guys trying to get more players involved year after year?
It was interesting. I was reading the open letter that Jeremy Rusco from Dynamic Disc sent to his customer base recently on social media, saying how this year he planned for 15% increase, and he's had 100% already, and the year's not done yet.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a similar experience here. When we knew we couldn't run a national tournament, and we decided to do this Aussie Disc Golf Day, which we'll get to talking about, I'm sure, we decided we did a tally, looked at all the league days. We made a fairly educated guess of the numbers. Just patting a dog here, by the way. Of the numbers that have beach life, of the numbers that we predicted we would get, and we went for 300. Currently, the registration for the Aussie Disc Golf Day is 510, and it's still growing. So our scene appears to have almost doubled during COVID here in Australia too. So that appears to be a worldwide phenomenon. Something about the sport suits people who've got a lot of spare time and isolation, and it's happened here. And we've also had new courses. There's 2 new courses going in Queensland this year, a new one in South Australia, and it's caught on here for sure.
So,
and the exposure in national media. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, expand on the course development, because I heard of some of the politics, some of the things that have to happen in order for you guys to get courses. Obviously, that's different in every country. I've now heard the stories in places like Croatia and Finland. We know things are very different. Talk about what typically happens, because it seems like sports and athletic activities, it just seems like they're taken so much more seriously over there, where there's more control to get sporting events and fields and courses and things like that installed. How would you describe the process and what it all means?
Yeah, that's fairly accurate. I think even though Australia has all this space, the actual urban living space is not that different to the rest of the Western world, because most of the population's stuck on that eastern edge of the continent. So there's lots of places to play disc golf, but there's not much sort of any more public land than there is anywhere else. I think a big distinction with the growth of the sport in Australia to what I saw in America is the national parks. It seems like you can have courses in national parks there, and we haven't cracked that code here yet. The national parks are kept fairly pristine and free of any kind of facility or infrastructure and that sort of stuff. So the courses can generally only go into public parks, which are they're mostly more like park courses in Australia. We don't have those woods courses that you have over there. There is a couple of really good woods courses here, but they're on private land.
And that was going to be my next question: is how have you guys gotten to the point where people are see the potential or value in having a private course and putting something on their own property, making it pay to play, all the things that go with it? Is that something that's actually a growing segment of disc golf there, or are you not there yet?
It's generally not. It's not financially viable yet. It's okay. But definitely the people who are doing it are keen and devoted, passionate disc golf people. Like I'm sure some of your famous private courses over there, I'm sure they didn't make money for a long time. And the same thing here. I don't think Nate Lee at Granite Mountain in Queensland or Keenan Velios at Pine Lines in Western Australia are doing it for profit. They're doing it for love.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the same all across the world. So Aussie Disc Golf Day sounds like you're getting everyone to play, obviously on this same day, but in all different parts of the country, and then you're able to compare scores, or should I say probably ratings, based on as everyone's playing with getting their own ratings at their own event, and then they're going to be able to compare them. It sounds kind of like the women's global model. Am I right there?
That's where we got the idea from.
Okay.
And when we knew that we couldn't run a nationals, as we said, because we couldn't have an Australian championship because of the travel ban, we wanted to do a consolation event. And this started off as just a bit of an afterthought, as something we thought would be a little bit of like I said, a nice consolation social type event. But it's morphed into something far bigger than that. It's turning into this huge thing. I mean, 200 people who've signed up for this event are complete new players. They've signed up, joined our ADG here in Australia, Australian Disc Golf, which is our PDGA. They've joined that just to play the event. So it's and we're getting media attention from all over the place, and it's going to turn into something that really leaves a legacy, and it's a real sort of pivoting point for the sport here. I think a lot of people in Australia in the next few years, I think the first place they would have seen disc golf would have been this Aussie Disc Golf Day. That's the way it's looking. But yeah, sorry, on the scores, Terry. Yeah, the scores are all compared on PDGA rating, and we'll declare a winner. They won't be a national champion, but they'll have some sort of bragging rights for sure in every division.
And that was my next question: is are you breaking down every possible division that will be offered? When we see a lot of international play, there's usually a large focus on MPO and FPO, and sometimes that's it, depending on where you are. How many different divisions are you guys going to have, for everyone to compete in?
Well, to start with, MA4 and FA4, they make up 53% of the field so far that have registered.
Wow.
So more than half beginners. Then we've got MPO, FPO, MA40, MA50, MP40,
okay,
and a couple of juniors. So,
okay,
yeah.
So quite a variety of different divisions for everyone to pick and choose where they belong. And the fact that you have over 200 people that signed up that haven't played events before, what can you attribute that to? Clearly somebody is dragging them along or nudging them, whatever phrase we want to use. Somebody is clearly bringing them into the fold. And I don't want to say, how does that campaign been going, but how has it been pushed or sold or offered? How are people getting involved?
Mainly via normal social media channels and our website and the typical kind of promotions. We're doing some fun things with this. We're trying to have a bit of a sense of humour about it. A video competition. What's the most Australian thing you can do with a disc? And
what would be
one of the recent. Sorry, John.
I was going to say, what would be the most Australian thing you could do with a disc? I don't know.
One of the recent entries was someone got a baby doll and stuck a disc in its arms, and the first Australian-made disc that's produced here is called the Dingo. It's made by Fourth Circle Discs and so they said the baby's got my dingo.
There you go.
So that was one of them. Well, we've had kangaroos, we've had all typical Aussie icons in the competition. And as part of the competition, actually, we're getting most of the entrants. We've run out now, but most of the entrants get an Aussie-made Firehawk disc, which is a kind of a flippy, almost sidewinder type, good beginner-friendly disc that most people will get. But coming back to your point, Terry, it's my personal opinion that the thing that attracts disc golfers is other disc golfers. Mm-hmm. It's not so much courses and things like that. It's the social aspect, isn't it? And that's what this is doing. Is people are just dragging along friends. That seems to be what's happening.
Yeah, and that was exactly what I was wondering is, do you feel like, someone's just coming across a Facebook post or something randomly and saying, "Oh, I'm intrigued by this," or are you guys just doing a really good job of recruiting and saying, "Hey, we're doing this. This is perfect for you. You're going to come now finally play disc golf for your first time. We've been friends for 5 years. Now it's time you get out and play, and here's what we're going to do." And that it seems like it's the latter. Like people are just bringing their friends out. And now, were you guys ever part of? This goes back a little bit, but were you guys ever part of the world's biggest disc golf day back from the 90s? It was largely,
I think.
That. Yeah, and so Australia took part in that as well?
Yeah, it wasn't so far back either. I can tend to think we did one of those sometime in the 2010s.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it just kind of has that tone and that vibe of, hey, we're going to have things a little bit more relaxed, and the whole goal of this day, of this campaign, is to bring out a new golfer or two, get them introduced to the game, and it would always be, for many years, I think it was done in May, usually the second weekend in May, and it would just be announced as it's the world's biggest disc golf day. Competition is not the number one goal, it's just recruitment, and that was a very big deal for quite a few years. I knew here, and that's why, again, this kind of ties that together with the competitive, women's global format that we've seen, and I think it's great. So I guess the question would be, even without COVID, even without a pandemic of sorts, could you see some form of does this disc golf day, do you plan to continue it year after year?
That's become quite obvious that we should.
Okay.
We've borrowed all of the Nationals' social media goodwill and platforms to promote the Aussie Disc Golf Day, with the idea that we would then build the following and build the goodwill and hand it back to the Nationals next year. But I think we're going to have to split them now and do because this is obviously this is caught the zeitgeist, as they say. It seems to be the right formula that's just attracted people, and it would be crazy not to try it again.
Yeah,
and we've learned so many lessons. So many learnings from this first time. Yeah.
Sure. What's been the biggest, maybe most impactful lesson that you've learned so far? I think there's probably still more to learn before the day is done, but what do you feel like has been maybe one of the biggest or most surprising things you've learned?
Oh, just order enough merchandise, to scale it up. We thought we were being really extravagant by ordering 400 discs, and we ran out of them pretty fast. And we went back to the manufacturer, Reese Kruger, and asked him what else he had, and he hadn't done another run. And I was on the phone with him the other day, and I can hear him sort of walking and stumbling around his back room of his house, lifting up things, going, "Oh, here's another 5. Yeah, here's another 12. Well, I think we could have another 50,
Wow.
He's just finding blanks everywhere that we can print. We end up coming up with another 105. So next time, we'll be ready.
And that actually leads to another question, which is sponsorship, support. Where have you guys been getting that? What are you looking for? Those types of things. Who's been helping really back this?
We have got no sponsors for this event. It started off just as we used the Australian Disc Golf Board. We have grant money every year that we seed back into the sport, schools and new courses and whatever. And because none of that was happening this year because of COVID, we had that money sitting there. We decided to use that money to go back into this event. And we haven't really chased, probably a little bit of lacking spare time of the 100% volunteer crew that are putting it together. We haven't really chased big sponsors yet, but it's obviously an event. If someone was to sponsor it, they'd get pretty good exposure, and you wouldn't get bigger exposure in Australia from it. So, if we don't, we have actually put out some feelers. I'm going on national radio tomorrow to talk about it. We've already had some people on national radio in the last week.
Wow.
And if we don't get any sponsors this time, we'll certainly have enough numbers to lay in front of a sponsor for next year.
Now, with the Women's Global event and the merchandise, they've done a couple different formats as they've grown throughout the years about either pre-ordering and then having everything sent ahead of time, or having some other form of a player pack work in another way. What are you guys doing? Are you having one central place and then it's going to all the satellite events when you're talking about the discs or whatever? What exactly is the plan there? And how many cities, maybe is the next good question, how many cities are actively, or courses are actively participating right now?
I wish I'd taken an accurate count before I spoke to you guys today about this. It's 13, I'm pretty sure. It's 13.
13
okay.
Different
venues, yeah. And so we worked out a system of sending the disc to central points to be distributed depending on who's in. In Perth, we're just getting them sent to one place. We've got 3 venues here. We're just getting them sent to one place. And as you can see, this is a surf beach that we're at. And so it varies. We've worked out a system that so far has been working.
Wow. So just doing the quick math, if you have roughly 500 people signed up divided by 13 different locations, that's about 40 people per location. And to me, again, I think back to how excited the national championships were at having roughly 100. So the fact that you have all these satellite locations with half that draw at each of them on average, that's pretty incredible. Who don't test my geography too much, but what cities right now are looking at the largest turnouts roughly?
The event on the Sunshine Coast, which is lining up with one of the events that they had pre-organised, the Sunshine Coast Classic. That's sold out at 72, and that's also an Aussie Disc Golf Day event. That's going to be the biggest. There's one down in Victoria, and they've just had their COVID restrictions lifted. That's in Melbourne,
Okay.
And they're getting up to 60, I think, for their event. So they're going to have to split it over 2 courses because they're only 9-hole courses. Even Tasmania, a little old Tassie with population 500,000, has got two venues. One down in Hobart and one up in Burnie. Yeah.
Wow, that was going to be my next question. Tell me something's happening over there in Tasmania, and like you said, they have 2 separate locations. And now, I've in talking to someone like Val and Nate, I know you spent a little bit of time with them. I know they were in Australia. Just give everyone a little tease about the course in Tasmania and how highly regarded it is, and what people say about that. If they could, put it on their bucket list, what's something you would say to sell it on them?
Oh, Poimina. It can be a brutal place because it's so steep and you get these huge rollaways. I remember I got a huge rollaway one day and there's a little chuckle behind me. I think it was Richard Sampson who just said, "Welcome to Poimina." But yeah, you're standing on this hill which is surrounded by a bend in the Derwent River. You've got mountains in the distance. It's beautiful, green, lush course that varies from high elevation hilltop throwing down into sort of tight wooded courses down in the valley, with the holes down in the valley. I think Nate, I'm not sure if he's still got it on his website, but at one point on his website when he had his world's top 5 courses, he had Poimina as one of them. I reckon the new course they've got in Mount Gambier near Adelaide called Crater Lakes, which is in the crater of a volcano, that would be starting to push Poimina for our best course in Australia too. Wow. Now that's an incredible one. Yeah.
I feel like that was just being talked about and maybe developed when I was there, because I do recognize the name and as one of the conversations. And our good friend Luke Turnbull is on. He's so trusted. He has a wrench as one of our moderators here. He says it's 15 different venues are currently part of it. So that's absolutely incredible. Yeah. He'll get in here.
He's a TD at event. He'd probably know. Yeah.
Oh,
he's got the inside scoop.
He knows a few things. That's awesome. Do you guys need another camera guy? I mean, I know a guy. I don't know if I can get on a plane that far, but if I can,
I don't know if their country will take you.
Oh,
not even because of COVID, just in general.
I think you're out of time, mate. If you left now, you'd still be in quarantine when we're running the event. So.
Okay, so, but in all seriousness, a very key component to this, when is the date that this is all going down?
Next Saturday, November 21st.
Next Saturday, November 20. That's a couple Saturdays from now.
Oh, that's what we say, next Saturday. Oh, yeah. So this coming Saturday we call this Saturday, and then the one after we call next Saturday. Yeah. So,
really?
It's an Aussie thing, yeah. So, yeah.
I'll take his word for it.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So, this upcoming weekend is Saturday. Well, this upcoming weekend, this Saturday in like 4 days, it's the 7th. That's Saturday,
and then the 14th, and then the 21st. So we got 2.5 weeks.
2.5 weeks. Sorry. Yeah.
So what do you guys call it? Next Saturday? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, but the point is, it's the 21st. Yeah. That's what matters here. But it is interesting that you guys call it next Saturday. Yeah. Okay. What do I know?
I'm glad you brought this up, because I was sort of in my mind banking it all been on next Saturday. But if I've got another week, that's great.
Yeah, you get plenty of time.
So knowing that you wear so many hats as photojournalist and writer and golfer yourself, what will you be doing that day? And are you going to compete somewhere?
I'm going to compete for the first time in 3 years and give my rating a good caning, because it's still sitting where it was when I was a little bit of a better performer. So I'll endeavour to have fun and not hate myself, and enjoy the day as well. I should be able to play as well, I think. I may pull out on the day if my duties of coordinating the media for the event over the whole weekend get a bit big on me, but otherwise I'm going to try and play. Yeah.
And also worth clarifying, is it one round, or will it be 2 rounds that count to the overall score or ratings or whatever? Is it?
Every event needs to play 2 rounds of the identical course in a day. Most of them are 18 holes. Some of them are a little bit different, but most of them are 2 rounds of 18, so 36 in the day. Yeah.
Okay, so just very similar to what we've seen at the Women's Global. Even on some events that maybe were bigger, it's 2 rounds on the same course that they have to play, and those are the 2 rounds that then count toward the overall score or the campaign against one another. How much effort how much effort or coaxing did it take to get the PDGA from the rating side and a little bit of the logistics side? Because I know it's a significant amount of work that they put in for the women's global. How much? Who helped you out over there at the PDGA?
I think it was Andrew.
Oh, okay, Big Dog.
Yeah,
Andrew Sweeten.
Yeah, Luke might be able to chime in if he's listening and put the note there for us, but I'm pretty sure it was him. They were very accommodating. I think they just said yes straight away, and we worked towards doing it. They were quite keen.
Does this, without putting too much work on Big Dog and so many of the others I know at the PDGA, is this a model that every country could pick up and run with for a 1 day a year?
They might have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a good. People criticise PDGA ratings. I particularly never had a huge drama with them statistically. I've thought, oh well, their statistics, they're imperfect, but they're pretty darn good, really, given all the different variabilities that come into the algorithm they use. And it's a fairly honest comparison. I think it's a great idea, and it's a great coming together. What we've also found is that another thing, as we know, incentive drives behaviour, and if you can trigger a bit of competition between provinces or states or cities in terms of how many you've got registered and all that sort of stuff, that fires people up a little bit as well. And what we've noticed, we've put out our stats this week of which state has the most entrants and which has the most per head of population and all that sort of stuff, and all of a sudden there's this drive to get more people because the states want to beat each other. As I said, I'm glad I'm putting those stats up when we're all so far apart, because if we were all in the same room, there'd probably be a brawl. But with interstate rivalries being what they are, same as in the US. But it's led to a lot of fun banter. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think that's great. I could very much see that. Like you said, the rivalries, people just saying, hey, let's see if we can get more people for our club to be represented. And I think about World's Biggest, I believe, had some kinds of giveaways as well to incentivize people to show up, courses or baskets that were additionally given away. I think about ace races when those came into the scene, same idea. They were giving away participation prizes, and the largest ace race in the country, for instance, was then, or the world, was usually granted like a 9-hole course or something like that. So I think that's great to see you guys all challenging one another. Any bold predictions?
I was going to say, over in the West, well, we're not getting too caught up in the rivalry because we're pretty comfortable with already knowing that we're better people. So we're just trying to stay humble about it and trying to not get sucked into all the fights. And in fact, the ACT, Australian Capital Territory, have got the highest number per head of population by a long way at the moment, because you've been to Canberra, it's a small little province or whatever you call it. But we've cancelled them out by saying, well, it's state versus state, and you guys aren't a state. So until you're ready to grow up and be a state, we're not counting you in the calculation. I don't think that's gone down very well.
It's a hot take.
Yeah, there's going to be some new Australian wars breaking out or something over there with you guys.
Yeah, we'll grow the sport. We'll divide the country politically for years to come. Yeah.
It's
all fun.
And then Luke did chime in. He's given us the link, so if you guys are following along, of course, I'll try and put that. Remember to put that same link in the show notes here at the bottom of the event, or the bottom of the YouTube here tonight. So if anyone's taking a look or a listen, and he also then says, big shout out and thanks to Steve Gans, who has been fantastic in facilitation on the PDGA side of things, and that's really no surprise that Steve has also probably been one of the guys behind the scenes. I know he's always first guy to help out when it came to the women's global and all the extra technical behind the scenes legwork that takes place. Him and the rest of the PDGA staff and crew. Again, no shock there to see or read of such a thing. That's pretty cool.
I met Steve I saw Steve at the 2011 Worlds in Rochester when he was the TD there, and he gave the best player briefing I've ever heard. It was fantastic.
Oh, okay.
That was before he joined PDGA, I think. Yeah. I think that was Steve, yeah. Pretty sure Steve Gans, yeah. I remember him for that.
Now,
that's great that Luke's chimed in with those details. That's good.
Yes, thank you very much there, Luke. Also, funny enough, there's kind of an interesting tie. You speak of 2011 when you were here in the U.S. You were also on the West Coast for the 2011 Pro Worlds. And at one point, not too long ago, you had posted a few pictures of early days of live broadcasting, which was along with, at that time, Disc Golf Planet TV. For that particular week, I was playing and managed to slip into bottom cash, which was amazing.
And I was doing
Johnny here,
commentary and camera, a little bit of camera work, but mostly Terry Roddy. But I was doing commentary and hauling the live view, working with Dave Greenwell, and at one point, Kenny Kleinmo for a little while as well, doing some of that original commentary work.
Yeah, and
thank God that stuff is lost to time.
Well, and Kinga, you were there and had snapped some photos, and you were all, what was that trip for you? Were you over just for the Worlds, or were you taking the larger part of the U.S., or how did that all tie together for you? Because I know you snapped photos of everything we're talking about.
Yeah, I've got photos of both of you, I think, in some of those. It's a shame I'm not near my other computer now. I could load them up. But, yeah, I've got photos of – maybe I'll do it later. I've got photos of both of you in shots, particularly when Paige drops her winning putt. And my good friend Liz Lopez now is in those photos, who I hadn't met yet. So they're quite interesting to view, you know.
Yeah.
But no, I just started playing. And my friend Kim Holmes, the Masters player from – who's now been to 13 World Championships. Oh, no, sorry, 11. He's been to 11 World Championships. He dragged me over, and I thought I'd just go for a bit of a casual trip. I had the resources and the time to do it at the time. Played terribly at the Am Worlds, and it burned me so badly that was the father and the mother of all my practice from that day on. And I gradually improved myself as a player, because I didn't perform very well in either. And then I came to the Pro Worlds, and they let us in because we were Australians, pretty much. And I played there as well, but I definitely didn't cash in the Masters.
Well, now again, though, you talked about traveling and then taking those photos that we talked about. One of the things that you talked about a long time ago is how you prep for your travel. And now that you're a published author, you have a ton of photos you've been contracted for, you've done all these amazing things in a very professional world, but yet you've also talked about sometimes the value of traveling light and how, maybe your $200 or $300 or $400 setup does the job and does the work if you know how to use it, as opposed to a $2,000 setup. Maybe just elaborate a little, from the business and strategic side of things for you as a content producer.
Sure. As you've said a few times, Terry, I think in some ways the photojournalism and the writing text and still photos are shrinking in terms of their overall influence over how the story of the sport gets told. But they still play an important, valuable part of the niche, I think, of telling the story long term about the sport. But yeah, in terms of camera gear, I've got a professional setup, which is a full frame DSLR, and I've got the sort of lens that I would use for disc golf is a professional 70 to 200 zoom f2.8. So those two things combined are getting towards $5,000 or $6,000, and I use that for most of my other travel photography. Any time that the image needs to be printable, something like that, or any time that you have to get the shot, because I think a big advantage of the pro level gear and the full frame sensor is that it leaves more information in the shot. So if you underexpose or overexpose, you can still drag that image out and get what you need. Like if you're in a wedding, or I don't do weddings, but if you talk to a wedding photographer, they'll say exactly the same thing as me. They'll say the good gear doesn't get any better photos, it just takes more usable photos. Going back down to the smaller gear, which is a crop sensor camera and a cheaper 70 to 300 zoom, which is only goes out to f6.3. The camera geeks here will know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. So it's a slower, darker lens. You can still get great shots with that. It's just that you don't get as many, and it tends to work less when the light's really low, and you have to work a bit harder sometimes to get your shot. But I find for covering disc golf tournaments, if you know where the light's going, you know the spots you're going to get good shots, you'll still get an adequate enough amount of shots over the day with gear that's a lot lighter, a lot less expensive, and you feel much more comfortable traveling through Southeast Asia with it. Not that Southeast Asia is a hotbed of theft or anything like that. I mean, as you know, Terry, Thailand, your gear's probably safer there than it is anywhere in the world. But traveling, it's humid, it gets bumped around and gets bounced around on the back of scooters and stuff like that. So, I tend to prefer the lighter sort of, you call it more amateur enthusiast type gear, and it still works.
Well, yeah, and it goes to, your knowledge and your background. If you know how to use it, amateur might not even be the right word. It just might be lesser expensive gear. And when you're using it, I don't think amateur is the word that comes to mind. But and I'll speak to that when I see someone like yourself or an Alyssa Van Lannen or a Lauren Lakeberg, any of our photographers. You guys are really you're putting in the work to walk around the course, to know at various times a day, like you said, where the best light is going to be and where you feel like you're going to set up and get some of the best shots. Now, you're always roaming and doing other things, but you have certain sweet spots, and I think about our time in Thailand where you had very specific spots where you knew you were going to get the best possible shots for our competitors. And I'm really just speaking to all of the work and the information and the background of what it takes for you to go out and do such a great professional job. It's incredible, really.
Oh, thanks, mate. Yeah, there's a lot behind the curtain with stuff like this. The same with what you guys do. It might seem like you're just a pair of mates who sit there having a chat once a week, but I'm sure both of you know there's a lot that happens. Oh.
Uh-oh.
We might have lost his headset piece.
That's what I'm guessing. Yeah, I think that might be the case. We'll wait for him to see if he can come back, whether it's his connection. I know he's on a Wi-Fi or a phone hotspot right there.
He's also on the edge of the ocean.
On the edge of the ocean. I mean, just trying to give us the most beautiful view that you could really ask for out there in the west coast of Australia. So we'll see if we can get him back here in a moment. If he comes back, we can start to wrap things up with him. Or Luke is saying, or his phone is hooked in and he just got a call, so that's possible as well.
Luke is bombing him right now, so he can't.
Exactly. Get off the air. Get off the air. I do want to say, pretty incredible. You can check it out, of course, pdga.com/Aussie Disc Golf Day. Will get you there. It is showing right now. It's showing right now as the 298 players. However, as he mentioned, they were hoping for 300, and he says they may be upwards of 500 when it's all said and done. Pretty incredible. And just like we see for the women's global, we see all the different cities, all the different courses. Where all the representatives are coming in from. Pretty awesome to take a look at. And I was going to ask him this question. If we get him back, we can further elaborate. But there's a few people that I would pick to do very well there. And then sure enough, I'm seeing the highest, who I know as one of the highest rated players in Australia in Patrick Robinson, otherwise known as Patty. I'm expecting to see a good performance out of him as he's rated 994.
That's pretty solid.
Yeah, certainly a pretty good, darn good player there. All right. Sorry, I'm taking a look at some of the other stats and the information, and we'll see if we can check back in with him. But anyway, again, check it out. PDGA.com/Aussie Disc Golf Day is where you can find the information. Not this Saturday. Not the Saturday after that, but then the Saturday after that is when that's going to be taking place on Saturday, November 21st. All right. So, not sure if we'll get him or not, so we can head on to another topic or two.
Yeah, we'll move on. Some of the PDGA news that we're seeing. The 2021 A-tier schedule was just dropped 2 days ago, or as Kingsley liked to say, about a week and a half ago. It has more A-tiers than I think a lot of people expected, knowing what the PDGA had said in the past, that they were going to try to keep it to around 100, I believe. This has 137, I think I saw. I saw the number a couple minutes ago, but whatever. So it's around there. And it gives a good listing of the of all the events coming up, including the NTs and the DGPT and the majors and all that other fun jazz. So you can go out to the PDGA news and see that for yourself.
Yeah, and I am no longer in this role of state coordinator for here in Wisconsin. However, this is really what we see as just the next step, because after the A tiers have been released, of course, majors, NTs, all that was released over a couple weeks ago. Now we're going to see all these A tiers released, and then at this point is when most of your tournament directors will then be reaching out to their state coordinators, hopefully doing just that, coordinating with them to then take a look at this schedule and then plan their B and C tier events with the remaining weekends that kind of wrap around the schedule that has been released. There's restrictions for how close your B tier can be to an A tier, so on and so forth. Those are all types of things that get taken into account. And I've said this countless times. In some states, maybe not such a big deal. Montana, maybe not a huge problem with trying to coordinate the weekends that they're having big events. Wisconsin, for instance, third or fourth most courses in the country, and dozens of events, and some that conflict from one weekend to another, or I'm sorry, on the same exact weekend, and then you have split weekends and so on and so forth. So it's quite a considerable headache as opposed to maybe some of the smaller states that are a little easier to control. Heck, I think NorCal and SoCal have two separate state coordinators just to manage the northern part and the southern part of the that state. So pretty incredible. We've
got Kinga back. Let's bring him back on
all right,
so we can kind of get things settled up and give a good proper goodbye and talk any last questions that we might have for him.
Yeah, Kinga. So it looks like you've switched. You've moved away from the beach, and now you're indoors.
I'm back on Wi-Fi now. Yeah, I thought my laptop had plenty of charge, but it apparently not. It died very suddenly.
No worries. So. I will kind of leave this open-ended to you. Are there any other things that we didn't touch on for Aussie Disc Golf Day that we need to make sure we get out there and share or mention, or how should I'll follow that up? I'll follow my own question first, and ask, how should people follow along? Where's the best place for them to consume this outside of just the PDGA score sheet?
Just the hashtag. If you can follow the same hashtag on Instagram. YouTube or Facebook, mainly Facebook and Instagram. That's hashtag Aussie Disc Golf Day.
Okay.
And anything, all of our craziness, all of our funny videos, our somewhat lame attempts at comedy, and all that sort of stuff and results, they'll all have that hashtag. So yeah, if you just follow that, you'll see all our stuff.
Did I see a week or so ago your post? Were you having a conversation with a kangaroo?
Yeah, that's right. As you know, Tezza, us Aussies are renowned for fabricating the truth for humorous purposes, and we call it a shaggy dog story, like the fable of the drop bears and all that sort of stuff, for example. And most of my US mates, I'd say, we've got kangaroos hopping down our main street, mate. They're in my backyard every night, and they're like, yeah, sure, pal, sure they are. But they are. We have kangaroos. I was hoping to put my laptop in front of a couple for you today, but the middle of the day, they're normally sort of sleeping in the bush somewhere.
Okay.
At sunset, they all come out. Yeah.
And to put it out there, I liken kangaroo a lot to seeing deer. Again, I'm from Wisconsin, so seeing a herd of deer, seeing a bunch of deer on any given day is certainly no shock to myself. Growing up, obviously, depending on what part of the country you're from or even within the state, it might be a little bit more shocking. But kangaroo are, you guys, they don't faze you whatsoever. They're everywhere.
No, that's right. They're especially in the fringes of the cities and in the rural areas, country areas. That you won't find one hopping down the main street of Sydney or Melbourne very often. But that has happened. But they're you got to be a little bit careful with kangaroos. Like the big males, they'll be well over 7 foot tall, and they're built. They've got a bit of a body to them, and they don't mind a fight. They're territorial, and they're all trying to vie for the attention of the ladies. So there's a bit of that going on, and if you stand a bit too close to one of them at the wrong time, they'll mess you up. So you've got to be a little bit careful. Remember that one boof we had over in Canberra, Tezzy? You would have seen him. He was a big boy.
Yeah. Well, true or false, people sometimes get, enjoy their adult beverages too much and then try and mess with kangaroo and
Why would you do that?
Do you think does that happen?
Say that again. We just dropped out for a second there.
I was saying, do some people get drunk and then think it would be fun to either play with or antagonize a kangaroo? Do people ever do that?
Yeah, and they come off second best every time they do.
Yeah. Not only are you going after an animal, never the smartest move in general, you're not at your full capacity because you're inebriated, and kangaroos will screw you up.
Yeah.
Like little claws and big powerful feet and their little arm. I mean,
little arms, yeah.
I mean, I would and I assume they might bite at some point as animals do. But I would not
No.
Those claws, I won't go into too much detail, but I've seen some horrible things done by those claws on hunting trips when I was a kid. And they'll stand on that tail and just rake like this. And and those claws are long, and they'll do a number on you. Yeah.
So just to appease us, mostly American folk that are probably watching or listening, what give us a misconception about Australia? It doesn't have to be about kangaroos, but Australia or Australian disc golf, anything you want. Give us a misconception where you would laugh at us because we either think that or believe something.
Probably the main thing is most of my friends will say, isn't everything trying to kill you in Australia? Aren't all the animals trying to kill you?
Yeah.
I'm like, hello, bears, cougars. We used to hang our gear up in the bush when we went camping when I was in the US. We don't have to do that here. So as long as you don't stick your hand anywhere dark where there's spiders and snakes, you should be fine.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think the things that try to kill you in Australia are smaller and more deadly. We don't have a lot of venomous stuff here, like a little bit, but not a lot. You got some areas that have scorpions, a couple have some deadly spiders, but
a few snakes. But you're saying much worse in Australia?
I think so.
Yes, no, Kinga?
And I guess we've got like the irukandji, which is a jellyfish. The bad news is that when it stings you, you'll suffer the most horrendous pain you've ever felt. The good news is you won't suffer it very long because you'll only have about a few minutes to die. So
that is the silver lining, definitely.
That's right. Yeah. This is going to hurt, but I'll be dead soon.
Yeah, it's awful, but it's short. So.
All right. So, I know again you're a very well-educated man that's traveled around quite a bit, and I don't want to get too political, but when do you suppose you and I and some others will be able to finally meet up in another country for the love and the sake of disc golf? How long before you personally think we might see that happen?
Depends if you drag John with you, mate. I think it'll all depend on whether he comes as well.
Okay. Yeah.
But,
okay.
I'm saying February 2022. I don't think this February coming is going to work for Thailand for the Southeast Asian tour, but hoping it's all reloading for 2022. That'd be my prediction from our part of the world. I think your tour over there, hopefully, and everything will normalise over the course of next year, but international travel is going to be a bit longer, I think.
We're rounding the corner. I keep hearing that. We're rounding the corner.
Someone keeps saying that.
The problem is if the corner is in one of the corners of Australia and you have the rest of the continent to go around, that's a long corner at that point. But all right, Kinga, it's been so incredible. Again, so many of my favorite international or just in general disc golf memories over these last few years have included hanging out with you and some fellow Australians, along with our time in Thailand and maybe hopefully Croatia at some point and other places that we deem appropriate for us to invade for a week or more. And so glad you could come on and talk about Aussie Disc Golf Day for us today.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, it's such sweet sorrow, isn't it? Because we've all got so much in common now that and
Sorry, you were just cutting out. It looks like we might be losing you again here. Are you there? You were saying we have so much in common.
That is, and Johnny Rumble, of course, and Gary O, and all the crew. We're such a bond, and we couldn't be more far flung if we tried. Like I said, it's the strangest thing, isn't it? And we value each other's company so much, and we don't get to enjoy it very often.
Yeah. You're right. My first and only gay time was with you guys in Australia, and it was pretty amazing. So, thank you for that. All right, so we're gonna call it a night.
Yeah, in joke.
Kinga, Luke on the board. Seriously, it's been so fun catching up. I feel like we should make this a more frequent thing. Check in with our friends from the other side of the world. We will please keep us posted. I'll do everything I can to also help promote and push everyone to check out things during Aussie Disc Golf Day. Keep us posted, and anything we can do to report back when it's all said and done, we'll be glad to do so.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for having us on. Nice chatting with you too.
Awesome.
Right, take care.
Thanks
Have a good
lot.
night, Kinga.
Good night.
Cheers, guys.
Good night. And there we have it.
What a swell chap.
Again, he just puts a smile on my face every time I think about all these fun places that we've been in. And one specifically that just happened over this last weekend was Croatia, Drava Forester, an event that I had me and Gary to the O and Johnny Rumble that we also traveled to last year. One of the greatest weeks in all of disc golf. And when I did see Kinga back in Thailand, which is also a fun time, we said, you have to get to Croatia for that event. And just when I got spoiled with the idea of some of these international travels and seeing and meeting some of these people, things come to the screeching halt. So another thing to look forward to as hopefully we get back on track here worldwide. All right.
So we talked about the PDGA A-tier schedule being released. There really isn't...
Anything jump out at you that was...
No, not especially. I didn't... Granted, I just skimmed it over, and as we know, a lot of this is just really rollover from what this year was going to be. It's more so of a repeat. We haven't seen, or at least they're not marked on here, what the DGBT Silver Series are. So we don't exactly know what's happening there. Those might be A tiers. Those might be B tiers. I'm not 100% sure what we're going to see, but it's all your standard events that we kind of, we're doing Groundhog's Day is what we're doing. And we're going to do 2021 just hopefully like 2020, but better people. Just like Bill Murray, he makes himself a better person. Let's all hope we can do that for 2021.
Well, and as many of you already know, and maybe a little refresher, the national tour that were granted all of the events for 2020, as Johnny was just alluding to, granted those again for 2021. And then same went for all of our majors. And I believe all of our majors, I don't want to say took advantage. They accepted the idea of just the postponement. I think about the U.S. women's that I know would have been coming here to Wisconsin, for instance, in 2021. Of course, will come in 2022, and so on and so forth. And that could be said of all of our majors and everything else that took place. So looking forward to it, and we're going to have to see. I know everyone, even my daughter said the other day, she's like, I know everyone's excited about 2021, but that's just a few months off, and just because we go to a new calendar year doesn't mean anything is guaranteed. And I'm really glad that she put that together. Unfortunately, it's a harsh reality, but even us, are we setting ourselves up for disappointment by keep saying, well, 2021?
Well, I think if it depends on what you're thinking 2021 is going to be. I don't, like Kinga had said, I don't believe that much is going to change in the grand perspective of what we have right now. Now, right now, we're seeing record numbers of COVID cases and this and that, but disc golf doesn't seem to be affected.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's going to change or if disc golf has kind of now been, we'll use the term, grandfathered into this COVID-friendly sport because it's outdoors. It can be you can for the most part be socially distanced and spaced. There's the mask mandates and such. I'll be curious, but as we all know, this isn't, this COVID, we're not hitting, January 1st and being like, woo!
Okay, it's gone.
Yeah, none of that is happening. I think we're going to continue to ride this out, and I wouldn't be shocked to see a lot of this, nothing really change until midsummer.
Well, and one then followed, to follow up your exact comment there is the question is, will we see even our one international major take place? And
I think it will. I think even if,
if the U.S. can't go,
even if the U.S. can't go,
okay.
I bet you they do it. They're just going to say, just like we did with USDGC, just like we did, with the Pro Tour
nationals.
And the Women's Nationals, they will just run that event, as I think they should.
Okay.
And I understand that it's, it sucks not to have some of the best players in the world there, but at some point you can't.
If all of them can still go from, we'll say that, the general region or area. And I'm talking about the European Open, July 14th through the 18th, the one major that is currently scheduled in Nokia, Finland. And now there's, of course, other A tiers. There's the Disc Golf Pro Tour stop. That's going to be the PCS Sula Open and all of those types of things. And then there's an entire European tour. Again, that might be, we'll say, a little more self-contained with players coming from those regions and those areas. And we may or may not see an international contingency coming from the U.S. over to there. And so here I just want to speculate for a second before we put this one to bed. Let's say international travel is still not allowed or welcome from other countries here to the U.S., but large in part everything else is happening. Do we again postpone the World Championships?
I hope not. Personally, I didn't really want to see it postponed this year, but I understand the reasons why. I don't know if you can postpone it another year.
So we throw out the applied logic from this year, which is that they can't come and compete, international competitors. We set that aside and say, well, they still can't come, but the worlds must go on.
I think so.
Okay.
I truly think so. And maybe there'll be some sort of standard that says, oh, if you are a foreign player, you need to come over 14 days in advance. You need to quarantine.
That will be a little bit more widely accepted or well known ahead of time.
Correct.
As opposed to this year of uncertainty. So next year, if somebody does feel like they have the potential to compete and to vie for a title, they would maybe then take that on as much of a pain as it is. They may actually take those measures.
Hopefully, testing gets more ubiquitous and faster, and you can have a closer to real time positive or negative test, things of that nature. That's all we can hope.
All right. So in other news, Johnny, I see you got it pulled up. There was
I do. Paul McBeth, Mr. Paul McBeth. He called me.
Yep.
And he said, John, I'm looking for a car. And I said, well, Paul, let me tell you about my 2009 Honda Fit.
Uh-huh.
And so he bought it. And I was like, wow, that was really nice. That's it. That's my whole story.
Oh, okay. Well, that sounds, the story checks out. Because when I think of car guys, I think of you first and me second.
Yes, we are car guys. We are
aficionados.
We are guys who know things with four wheels or tires that have axles in them, and they go forward.
Yeah. Well, nonetheless, Paul McBeth, dare you call it flexing or whatever phrase you want to attach to it, or rewarding himself, him and his family doing however you want to refer to it. But McBeth posting to Instagram,
he bought a McLaren
in the last 2 days. Yeah, he has purchased a McLaren
570S Spider convertible, 2019, black with red trim.
2019, that broke.
I know,
joke.
That little bitch. That's what you wanted to say. Like, I'm going to go with the last year's model.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, that's
he
really.
Didn't even win a world's. Oh yeah, wait, never mind.
Technically,
okay.
MSRP people are saying is about $208,000. I don't know if maybe he got a deal on it. Just saying.
Yeah, but is that with or without a box of Lunas on the trade-in? That's the real question.
That's true. I don't know. Anyway, dude bought an expensive sports car. Like I'm going to throw him a little bit under a bus here. Like a typical pro athlete would do. Like you're looking at your I don't want to say high profile, because really almost any athlete in one of the 4 major sports could afford to do something like this, assuming that they have any sort of cachet. Paul did it. You know, he got himself a toy. Which is funny because we don't see Paul really do a lot of luxury items. When he buys things, it's out of necessity. You know, when he's building a course, what is he going to do? He's going to buy a front loader, a skid loader, whatever the hell they're called. This is his toy, and we know he has like what 2 things he really loves, and he loves cars and he loves watches. I can't blame him, honestly, and it's none of our business or reasoning as to his financial situation. I would make the assumption that he is a relatively smart guy. He has a very smart wife that actually reached out to me the other day, and she's like, what kind of computer should I think about buying? And so her and I had a little conversation while I was
told her a McLaren computer.
I was, yeah, you need to get a black McLaren computer and let me buy that for you.
Yeah, you should. Yeah.
I promise very
you
little
put a
markup.
skin on it that says McLaren, and then you just send her
and I charge her like
MacBook.
$13,000 for her. No, because she's not liking her MacBook. She's starting to go against it. But anyway,
so what you're saying though,
well deserved. I would have to assume that, you know, people know that when you buy a new, I'm assuming this was relatively new, even though it was 2019, it's going to depreciate. It's a sports car. It's a very unique item.
Some say it may not. It may appreciate because of the year of the model or the style.
Sure.
Blah blah blah. Okay.
Let's just assume that it does depreciate a little bit. I know it's a sports car and this and that, whatever, but he's making fat bank. He can do what he wants. I'm not here to judge his choices in life.
Yeah, there's a lot of other dumber stuff he's done.
Oh God,
let's get the list out. No, I'm just kidding.
No. And so you know what? I can't blame the guy. Let him rock and roll.
Yeah, to basically put a cherry on top of that, I'll just say, I think it's funny. Here we are talking about it. I get that. It is a pretty big deal because we really haven't had a full-time disc golf athlete with this kind of financial position to realistically go out and do something like this. So yes, it is newsworthy. Some would say, who cares? So a guy buys a car. Well, it's kind of a big deal because that car is more than most of our professional disc golfers will make in their lifetime of playing disc golf.
Yep.
So yes, there is something to that. Now, I'll also then go to the other side and say, I get it. You and I aren't car guys, as we joked about. I find it hilarious the people that want to then bash him and say he should have bought this, he should have bought.
Who cares? Yeah,
it's what he wanted. He clearly did some research. You can love or hate his decision, just like you could love or hate his decision on a hat or on a watch that he buys, on a set of earrings that he buys, or a haircut that he has. Like,
can we talk about his old haircuts? No, I'm just kidding.
I already referenced those. No, so it is funny to me how bent out of shape people have gotten about what exactly it is that he bought. I don't know that his great-grandmother's name wasn't McLaren. I don't know. Like, whatever the reasoning or logic is that he wanted to get that specific car, whatever. It's so funny to me how people just want to jump on it as such a negative thing. And what
it doesn't matter what, I mean, car people are car people. It doesn't matter what type of sports car you would have bought. It is going to be criticized.
Exactly.
You could, and again, I'm going to throw out a year in a car and people are going to laugh at me because I know, but you could buy a classic 1978 Camaro
68 Mustang
or 68 GTO Mustang GTO, which I think is a really nice car because I think my dad had one as a kid. And people would be yelling at you like, oh, I can't believe you bought the 68. Obviously the 67 is the way to go. Yeah. Whatever. Like the dude bought what's going to make him happy. He should be happy. I'm not concerned about his financial situation. As Disc Golf Nerd says, guess what's coming out next week? The McLaren Luna, which will pay for his McLaren and when he sells every Luna that he puts this McLaren on.
Exactly.
And then you guys can all shut up while he drives away with his stacks of cash.
Yeah.
So in general, and I'm only kidding about the McLaren Luna unless it's really coming out, then send me a few, please. But yeah, good for him. This does change the term disc golf rich.
Yeah.
Officially, Paul is.
This is like
he's ruined the term for everybody. We used to use it sarcastically, and now.
Well, to be fair, most people can continue.
Yeah, yes.
He
is now forbidden from using the term disc golf rich forever, and strike it from his vocabulary and the record.
Yes. So good for him. I hope he enjoys it. I like everyone else said about whether it's financially a good decision or not.
Buying a new car is never a financially good decision, period. No matter how you look at it, like never. And that's fine. If you're in a financial position to do that, who cares? But everybody knows buying a new car is not usually the smartest way to go. And
I mean, I even think back to when originally he was talking about when he had gone on tour and then he bought some big truck thing, big diesel, something or other. And then there was criticism about getting this truck versus that truck, and he had a totally different approach to how he was traveling and touring at that time, and it was still criticized for all those reasons. Again, if he's doing other smart things with his money, and this is something he personally feels like treating himself, splurging on, rewarding, whatever you want to call it, I'm not worried about it. I think we're going to hear some news soon that Paul McBeth's financial arrangement and positioning is not something that any of us should be fretting about, and I'm pretty sure he's not either. So that's where I'll leave that story for you.
Dude's making some cash.
He makes a few dollars. Also, speaking of a few dollars, and I really do apologize that this wasn't a subject that I brought up last week. I do want to quickly say there is a GoFundMe account that we've seen that was put together. Will and Trish Schusterich are expecting their first child. They've been to a few appointments and then had some news that came in with those appointments, and it sounds like there's going to be possibly some surgeries that take place immediately after
heart surgery, I believe,
after their firstborn comes into the world, and there's a number of things that have to happen. And so there was a GoFundMe account that was set up, and please go out and if I can find the link quickly, I will try to do my best to remember to link to it a little later. It was really kind of more in the news cycle last week. It was on the tip of my tongue at one point, and somehow I went over it. But I did want to mention it. So please feel free to go out and support Will and his wife and their new addition. Excuse me, that they will be expecting here. So I did want to make mention of that as well.
I don't have a lot else other than that. There hasn't been a lot. We want to real quickly just talk
real quickly.
We're starting to get into the season of change. We're talking sponsor change.
Oh
yes, Terry,
I thought you meant something else.
No, I don't want you to go into some sort of song about hair and anything like that. We're not going into that. So I'm sure that's right where you were going with that. I'm going to throw you a lifeline there. But no, Sarah Sinclair has left her longtime sponsor of Innova and moved over to Prodigy. She is the first of, we'll say, probably a few people changing sponsors this year.
Sponsor switching season.
Yes, it is sponsor switching season. Big waves? No. Honestly, Sarah doesn't.
Big waves in her hair. Have you seen her posting?
I have.
She's all about this Sun Beach wavy hair curls.
Yeah.
So we got to get that in there. Those are big waves.
Those are big waves. Sarah, who is very good friends with Kat, has signed on with Prodigy, which you could extrapolate and say, I don't know what Kat's contract looks like. I thought for some reason it was up at the end of this year. Probably going to re-sign with Prodigy. If I had to take a guess, the chance of her leaving Prodigy then this year, going somewhere else, is probably slim to none now that she has helped bring a very close friend of hers onto the team. I don't see Kat going anywhere other than Prodigy for another year or two, I would say. So Terry's giving me funny looks, but
I don't know.
I think I'm I think I got this one down. I think I nailed this one. And so ultimately, she's the first of a few probably that will see switch sponsors this year. Sarah doesn't really tour. She's very into her fitness right now. She has her own company doing fitness rehabs, I will say, for people and helping them out like a diet and exercise routine, things like that. So if you follow her on Facebook, it's because you know her. Otherwise, she always says, go follow me on Instagram, because she's not going to follow anybody she doesn't really know closely on the Facebooks.
Yes. So Sarah Sinclair, congratulations to her. And
she was the co-host of the PDGA podcast.
Yes.
And Rookie of the Year. Rookie of the Year a couple, 4 years ago now?
2015 or 2016. 2015 would make sense. She is.
She took second place at Worlds.
She was runner-up at the 2014 Amateur World Championships held in Minnesota. So her being Rookie of the Year in 2015 would make sense. But as soon as I say it, I want to go double check it. But I believe that is in fact the case. So and also just to kind of put a bow on that, she also celebrated her birthday recently, so happy birthday for her recently. But she had made a post earlier in the year saying she wasn't going to do much playing. She was kind of unofficially retiring and just refocusing her energy and her effort and all the work that she was doing into some other facets of her life, and she's been working really hard on those things. She's also one of the lead I don't want to call her chairperson, one of the main supporters and driving forces to the Respect Her Game movement and campaign that had come about. I know she had done some work on the website and was one of the main women in putting that together. So if you didn't know, now you know. And so with her taking on a sponsorship of Prodigy and her now playing more, which she's also started a YouTube channel with her husband, Sean Sinclair, you're seeing her just get back more and more into disc golf on the regular. So I think that's where it kind of all ties in together with her being now sponsored by Prodigy. And yes, 2015 Rookie of the Year.
2015 Rookie of the Year. Okay.
Nailed that. We nailed that one, Johnny.
Got it.
We got around.
Got it.
Got that all in there.
And we're not sure. We'll at some point reach out maybe to Sarah or someone about what's going to happen with the PDGA podcast. I don't know if they're going to continue that. Steve Hill obviously has changed positions. He's moved over to UDisc to do some sort of marketing manager or something there. And I don't know what his job is. I don't know what UDisc even does. So
they count people, John.
Yeah, clearly.
I think they're working with the ballots this weekend.
Your UDisc. Did you fill out your UDisc ballot? You can go for president.
Your U-vote ballot.
Your U-vote. So ultimately, Steve has moved there, and I know that they did their last podcast. So I'll be curious to see what the PDGA has in store.
If they're going to do any sell out PDGA.
Oh, I'm ready to sell him.
No, I'm ready to get rid of him.
I'm ready to sell him.
I'm ready to be
if
gone.
You want to go PDGA, I will take a small stipend to send Terry over to the PGA podcast.
Bring me in.
In all seriousness,
I want PDGA benefits. All the benefits.
All the benefits? What, like getting to hang out with Mike Downs? That's like the only benefit they have there. Because he's awesome.
Yeah, he's good. There's a lot of good people.
Oh, there's a lot of good people at the PDGA. Now, can we just now officially call ourselves the PDGA podcast? Like, can we the officially?
The PDGA would not approve of that at all.
No, probably not. But what can they do?
That's a good point.
I mean, we are now
until
officially
we get a cease and desist. We are.
I'd like to thank you to SmashBoxxTV, the official podcast of the PDGA,
and non-PDGA.
And non-PDGA. We're just the official podcast of everything. So if the PDGA doesn't like this, they are welcome to come onto the show and debate it with us, and we will
send all your podcast hosts at us.
Yeah, bring them
to debate it.
All right, so we'll figure out what's going on with the PDGA and their media scheme in the next few weeks and months.
Yes. All right, well, Johnny, looks like we can at least shut down the regular show. That's about it from the disc golf perspective. We may have a few things to talk about a little bit more in the after show, but in terms of news and the haps, I think we got it all covered here for our regular show on our special election night. Wow, just 10:30.
Yeah.
I don't know.
As of right now, I mean, it's early, but I would say it's not looking great for Biden. It's not looking bad, but
so favoring Trump.
It's not overwhelming. It's going to be very close.
Yeah. Well, I think that's good. I expect that to be the theme for sure. All right, guys, we are going to call it for the regular podcast. Stick around. We're going to have an after show. Who knows what we'll get into with that, but we'll be there and provide it for you nonetheless. We have to thank Kingsley Flett, a.k.a. Kinga. Such a gracious and amazing and just such a talented individual that helped make so many of my recent trips so much more enriching. And you can see some of the work he's done with Alta World. I know a lot of the coverage in the last couple of years over in Thailand and some of the Southeast Asia disc golf events and scenes that have popped up, and the coverage of them have come large in part by some of his work and his effort out there with both written word and with photos that he takes. Just an incredible job. So looking forward to seeing what they continue to do and to grow and to build with the Aussie Disc Golf Day. And of course, Luke, by proxy, we appreciate you chiming in with a few additional details, as well as one of our favorite smashies from over there in Australia. We appreciate it. We'll keep you posted on that event as well. All right, for Johnny V and myself, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, this has been SmashBoxxTV's podcast 322, the official PDGA and non-PDGA podcast of disc golf. We'll look forward to seeing you in a few moments when you step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the SmashBoxxTV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SmashBoxxTV's podcast 322
After Show Election Edition. Actually, by the time most people hear this, if you're not watching live, the election...
You still won't know the results of the election.
You may still not know the election results in 3 days. I kind of feel like... Do we need some sort of... I need to make up some sort of animation rather than between shows, for those of you watching on YouTube. Just the black Smashbox logo. I'd like something a little more animated, like, hey, stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Yeah, that seems like it would make sense.
I mean, we're only, 322 shows in?
Yeah,
I mean, it's probably a good idea.
It's time for you to really invest in that.
I think maybe time to start putting some effort in.
Yeah. People wouldn't know what to do because they're no.
Sometimes we surprise them.
Veering so far off path with that.
Sometimes we surprise people with a little extra. Like last week when we had a few highlights. I mean, shock the world.
Yeah.
I brought up a map of Australia.
Map of Australia this week. Yeah, you definitely. That's some next level stuff. All right, so I did mention as we were closing out the show, everyone, thank you for joining us. Mention to the YouTube chat specifically, if you guys, we are a little light on subject, so who knows how long tonight may or may not go in the after show. But if you have something to bring up or to discuss or for us to possibly postulate on or something, please feel free to give it to us here in the YouTube chat board. If you're worrying, somebody did ask if the super chat function is working, and I don't know.
I think it's broken. So from
it's one of those trial by.
it's broke, like most of you viewers. Clearly not clicking the button.
No, shameless plug. But if you can click on that if you want to. Sam K, who had just asked a few moments ago if we had talked about the Paul McBeth vehicle purchase. Yes, we did already talk about that literally just a few moments ago. Daniel is saying, I voted. So does that mean I can watch the after show for free? Yes, you can, Daniel. And we are glad you are here to take it all in. We appreciate that. And then Chris is saying, it looks like they might tie, which would be a hilarious outcome. I don't know that would be hilarious.
Hilarious would not be the word I would use if there's a tie in the electoral
just because
college.
I think of the continued mess that all of this would then ensue. That's why I don't.
I'm getting sick.
Some parts of me would find that mildly funny. Is it an even number? The electoral college? I'm sorry, I don't know.
538.
Is it? Okay.
Yep.
So in theory it could.
Yes.
Maybe.
They always say 270 to win. So.
Okay.
I'm getting sick just thinking of that.
All right.
Not for any particular person.
Just
the concept of
just the chaos. Has that ever happened?
I don't.
Somebody's got to know.
I don't believe it has.
We're gonna prove just how dumb we are here, Johnny.
Oh,
if we keep
God.
asking each other questions.
Has there ever been a president? Or is this like the first one?
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Do we have anything out on the board?
Yeah, there's not too much out there, which I understand. Things are actually a little bit light tonight. I do want to quickly plug, and I know we talked about them in the regular show, but I just even scrolling down on YouTube, I see that the GK Pro does have the Oklahoma Open. They have the final round. They have, I'm guessing, all of the coverage that they have has been posted. So GK Pro, thanks to those guys, and we mentioned it earlier as well, Ace Run was on the other side of the country doing a little bit of filming this last weekend. So we, if anybody wants to go out and consume it, you can. And we appreciate those guys working hard throughout the weekend. And then just like that, Shift One Photo says that the super chat does work. We appreciate it.
And Chris Carpenter checked as well, so to make sure it's working in 2 different spots.
It seems like one of the zeros is not working on your keyboards though. I'm such a
that is
jerk.
just pandering at that point.
It's so sad. No, but no, seriously though, shout out to both of you guys. We do appreciate any and all support.
I hope everybody got their T-shirt. Miles sent those out. I think maybe even we heard last week that somebody was wearing one. So by now, everybody should have got a SmashBoxx T-shirt.
All right, so here's the follow-up challenge to that. If you've gotten your quarterly T-shirt or your quarterly wearable item from SmashBoxxTV, you need to send us a picture of you sporting that. Playing golf, ideally. Petting a dog. I don't know, doing something cute and fun or lovable or amazing. We'd love to see it. Send it our way, and we would love to then share it on our Facebook page. And please do so. I haven't seen whatever the last wearable
to be honest,
Patreon item looks like.
To be honest, I barely saw it. I had Miles from Paragon put together a nice T-shirt with our SmashBoxx logo on it. So I did not order any for ourselves, for myself or you. So I'd be curious to see what.
So we don't know what it looks like, people. We'd like to see it. Miles is on the board and says yes. So Miles from Paragon Disc Golf has said it, and then Luke said, "I got my T-shirt. If mine arrived, everyone else's did too." And that's a good point. Luke is in Australia, so if he's gotten his, you guys should certainly all have yours. And we need to see some pictures, guys.
Huge shout out to Miles from Paragon for
too big of a shout out.
No, I'm going to give him a big shout out because that dude puts in a lot of effort. Because I do little effort, and he puts in a lot of effort in order to make sure that happens. I send him a list of names and addresses and maybe sizes, maybe. And I say, just guess. Do your best guess.
They sound like a large.
Yeah. No, just kidding. We send him sizes as well. But my favorite email to get or message on Patreon is, "Hey, John, can you change the size of my T-shirt?"
So they're buffeting.
No.
And they're getting smaller because they're working out.
Yeah. I had someone to say, I had a 2XL. Could you go down to an XL? I'm losing weight. And I'm like, that's fantastic. fantastic. I would love to do that. That'd be the greatest thing I could do. So if you happen to get one that was the wrong size this time, we do plan this a little bit ahead of time. So, but your next one, I guarantee you, will be fixed.
Okay. Reading off the board, Sam asks, anyone think Delwood in Illinois could host an NT in the next 5 years? Clearly, lots of chatter. I hate to admit this. I have not physically visited Delwood. Of course, I hear nothing but amazing, tremendous things about how great the course is, what a great job they do over there, all of that. So I don't second guess it from that perspective. I can't say enough about if the course is, in fact, challenging enough, and the most important part of all of this is, do they want to raise that kind of money? Are they in a position to go out and secure sponsorships to then host a national tour or a pro tour event that comes with adding 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 grand to the purse? That's the real question. Are they capable, willing, ready, capable, all those things? To be determined. But that's something also to keep in mind. It's not just sometimes a matter of, is the course good enough? It's a matter of, does the event want to take that next step and to be on the hook, or to have those commitments for such a sizable payout, which are some of the minimum requirements. So that's something to think about. Daniel follows up and says, the All-Star Weekend only top 8 for MPO and FPO. Couldn't they add spots 9, 10, and 11, fan vote for 12, Rookie of the Year? Lots of time left. Daniel, I don't want to sound like a jerk. I know you're asking a very valid question, but we kind of touched on this last week, and
it's year one.
Exactly.
Let's get this established. I agree. Those are all really cool and fun options. But at this point, the DGPT is paying for the travel and lodging, I believe, for all these players. So even one extra player, you figure that's another $1,000, another $1,000, another $1,000. So I think those are all valid considerations, and reach out to reach out to the Pro Tour and say, hey, I love what you're doing for the All-Star break, assuming that it goes off well and you love it. And next year, I would love to see this. I always tell people, you can scream on the internet all you want, and I know you're not doing that, Dan. I'm just saying people do. They, whether it's Reddit or Facebook, that might not get back to whomever is the big decision maker. If people truly want a decision or information to get to where it is, send a direct email either to an info at DGPT or wherever the thing, or info at Innovar,
Johnny V at DGPT.com,
which will go nowhere because I don't have a DGPT email address. But because if you just make a giant thread on Reddit and hope someone sees it, and I don't care if there's 300 messages under it,
it might not.
The person who makes the decision may not care, may not ever see it. And if you're that passionate about it, reach directly out. And there's a lot of really cool things that we could see in the future with this All-Star Weekend, and we will hopefully we'll get there. We'll just like the DGPT, start small, work big. Yeah, and my answer was a slightly different sidetrack to that. Although all that does make sense, I just feel like right now, at the core of it, it is as Johnny said, it's the first time event. It's a bonus event. It is 100% a bonus, and some people even were frustrated that, well, the players didn't know about it at the beginning of the year. They didn't. It's a bonus, and I don't know if it quite fits, but at a certain point we can't look a gift horse in the mouth here, in that if this is a bonus event where there's going to be a bunch of free publicity, media, extra content, and money given away, along with an all-expense paid trip, a line gets drawn somewhere about who is or isn't coming. Would you be more comfortable? Someone could say, well, cut out spots 5 through 8, and then add in this, the qualifiers that you just said, but cut out spots 5 through 8. I think they're also trying to make it very manageable from a media perspective, of trying to give the most media exposure to the people that are there, because if you have too many people at an event like this,
there's only so many cameras that are, filming something
Mm-hmm.
live at a certain time with only so many hours in the day. So maybe keeping it a little more compact and controllable and manageable is also a consideration there. And I think all of your qualifiers make perfect sense. And I could name off 10 more qualifiers that also all make perfect sense. But as we said, let's get this thing under our belt the first year, find out what works, what doesn't work. And if there can be another bonus event in future years, then we continue to have it. But yeah, right now I don't know if this is.
Let's not give too many suggestions on year one. Let's see how it plays out, because maybe in year two we see a lot more people come in, but maybe the DGPT only pays for the top 8. Like, cool, that's part of the bonus of finishing in the top 8 with the most points. Or I could see them doing something along the lines of, hey, we're going to bring in the top 8 total points without dropping any, because that would incentivize people to go to more events.
Mm-hmm.
And while the tour finale might be, your best 8 out of 10 or 10 out of 12 or whatever it turns out being, maybe the All-Star weekend is whoever pulls in the most points for 5 through 8 or something along the lines. Or maybe they open it up and say, hey, if you want to come and you're on this list, you can come and participate, but we're not paying for you to come.
Sure.
As opposed to the top. So
yeah, I think that's where
lots of cool options.
It'll evolve, I guess, is the best way to look at that right now. Luke also mentions, which is pretty awesome, and I did see it myself, Ian and the rest of the crew, Ian obviously the front man there, but CCDG, Central Coast Disc Golf, cracking 100,000 subscribers just recently on their YouTube channel. Congratulations,
Bravo.
Of course, to them. Just a tremendous feat. That's a lot of dedication. It's countless hours editing, commentating, posting, making thumbnails, getting pissed off when your
internet dies at 76%.
At 76%, and you're uploading a 7 gig file and you have to restart it, or you rewind 5 or 6 years ago and you could only upload 1 video at a time, and so you would leave the hotel in the morning at 8 in the morning because you had to go film the next day, and you're loading up the front 9, which is why you also split them, because there was such a long, large upload. So you'd start uploading the front 9 and you'd come back 8 hours later hoping that the front 9 was up so you could start uploading the back 9, all to find out that the front 9 got to 12% and then somehow stopped, and all day long it didn't upload. Those are very real scenarios, and so congratulations to them is really what I'm getting at. A huge feat and accomplishment by those guys.
Someone asked earlier, Terry, what's your favorite card game?
I mean, the one I probably would be best at is, it'd have to be War. I just feel like
high game skill. Like like what's your favorite? Like
I
if
need
you
a
had
qualifier. I need a qualifier.
if you had 4 people, if there's you and 3 people,
okay,
and you had any game, you had a deck of cards, and let's just say
and money
and whatever you want to do, and you say we can play any card game in existence. What do you want to play?
I don't feel like I have a deep repertoire of card games. I mean, I feel like I'm average in what I would either know or like to play. I mean, I grew up playing 500 Rummy as a kid. I feel like that's a little bit more Midwestern. Just like we know cribbage is very Midwestern.
And I was going to say, my favorite personally is cribbage. It's my favorite card game.
Cribbage would definitely have to be up there. I can't think of a game I'd rather play more than playing cribbage. So I think that would have to be the answer.
Okay.
I mean,
there's
that's where I say you have the qualifier, because I really enjoy playing blackjack.
Yeah.
But we all know, well, depends who's dealing,
of course,
and who's paying out and covering the bets.
It's been a long time since I played euchre. I enjoyed some euchre. I enjoyed hearts, spades. We grew up playing sheep's head, sheephead, whatever you want to call it. We grew up playing that, and I really enjoy that. I was never good at counting the cards, because each card has a different value. And growing up, for the longest time, I would just be like, "Hey, Dad, count these," and he would just fly through like 4, 8, 12. Yeah, we win, and I'm like, "Okay, cool." like I know how to play, but counting necessarily wasn't. I could never remember the values of the cards. But overall, I think cribbage is my favorite card game, followed up maybe by Rummy. Like just it's fun for me. I think if you get like 4 people, just to play a good game of 500 Rummy, and Rummy brings me back to college when my roommate and I, or my suite mate technically, wasn't he was right next door. We would go to a physics class, and rather than listening and pay attention, we'd sit in the back of the classroom at a table and just play cribbage. And the hardest part was being able to shuffle without anyone hearing it in a giant study hall, because the physics class we took was like, we had jokingly called it physics for fools, and we were both.
You guys were number one fools.
We were number one fools, but we had taken physics in high school, and both of us, even though we came from different areas of the country, and it was like one of those classes you're like, oh God, I got to take this. And I think you actually got dumber by listening to the professor than.
Oh, you're so smart, Johnny.
No, not at all. Because
you're so smart.
That was the last physics class I took, and just it was one of those things like you learned a lot in high school. I didn't need it. We're just retreading, and so we played like a progressive 500 Rummy for an entire semester. The TA at one point was sitting next to us and just kind of watched like, who's winning? And it was always pretty close, and I don't know if we ever kept the final tally on that for that semester, but it was that's why Rummy always has a place in my heart, because I just think back to that.
Well, all right. So the card games, yeah, I've I enjoyed playing quite a few of them when I was much younger. Me and all my buddies loved to gamble when we were 12 and 13 and 14, and we'd spend all night gambling, playing all sorts of games. Blackjack being actually the number one game, which is when I fell in love with it. Daniel says, Terry, I found a bunch of your beer you were drinking a few weeks ago. Holy crap, $14.99 a 4-pack. Well, to be fair,
easy there, high roller. Wow.
To be fair, I'm guessing you're talking about Founders Backwoods Bastard, and again, I don't get too excited about.
Are you a beer snob now?
No, that's just it. Well, in some way, I must be, because that's all I like. I just love the Scotch ale. The problem is, as I've complained now a few times, it's an incredibly like specific niche like beer that's not popular, and it sounds like it's even quite seasonal. So that really screws me. And 9.5 places out of 10 I go to, which would be weird, I can't find any. And so it really sucks. That's like the one thing I now seek out or care about. I love the taste of it, and I can't find any. In fact, as I came over to your house tonight, I stopped at the grocery store just down the road, and I thought, well, I'll peek my head in there. Again, I'm very, very casual about my beverage consumption, whether I have any or not. But I thought, well, I'll peek my head in. They had none, and I, of course, was not surprised. So Backwoods is more expensive than their non-barrel aged version, which is Dirty Bastard. Both very good. The one kicker, though, to it being expensive, and I didn't think I'd ever spend $14.99 on a 4-pack myself, the one kicker is it's like 11% alcohol. So there's I find myself, I don't drink much, but when I do, sometimes I go a little hard on those, and it works out in my favor. But yes, that I do love those. Shift 1 is saying that's not bad for craft brew, which yes, I can totally understand. It is. So I do want to quickly shout out. I know we shout out Disc Baron every week for our digital green room and the support that he continues to give. Disc Baron has also personally reached out, given some support to Disc Golf Guy post-production content. So thank you very much over there at discbaron.com. I also want to shout out, though, quickly, Infinite Disc, who I know supports us mainly in your skip ace endeavors. Infinite Disc, of course, supporting tons of things these days as well. A great online retailer. Today, I was putting out a little feeler. I just needed a few moments of graphic work, and someone from Infinite had reached out to me and said that they would be willing to help out and at no cost, and I appreciate it. It was just a few moments of graphics work, but nonetheless, it was very timely and very much needed, so I very much appreciate that. So Dylan, thank you. Infinite, thank you as well for that. Wanted to get that in there. And in other news that we didn't talk about I was right around this time last week, Savage is rebranding.
Yeah, are they? And I didn't see the actual name. I think, is it just called Seven now? It's
No.
a VII. How's it?
I think it's going to be officially pronounced VII.
Okay, Savage. That's dumb.
No,
No, it's dumb. It's dumb. Like, I love you, Savage, and we have some awesome shirts from yours. I like either call it Vi, which is like the way I call my daughter, or call it Seven. Like, just because it's VII, no one's gonna be like, oh yeah, do you get your newest VII shirt? I hate that name.
Oh, okay. Well, slow your roll.
Yeah, let's make sure because I love their logo and
yeah, and I think it's a way that they're trying
stuff.
to differentiate themselves from just calling themselves, we'll say Seven, which apparently you're not a fan of.
I'm fine with Seven apparel.
What's that?
I would be fine with.
No, I mean that you don't like the VII.
Yeah, because it's just too much. It's too mouthful. That's all.
I do feel like it's like I said, it's just a way to differentiate.
V2.
I would love to. I'll quickly. They make a post under blogs, VIIapparel.co, and then blogs news. I saw this briefly on social media. I'll admit I did not read all the details, but it says they've, for the last several months, they've thought a great deal about how we can be anti-racist company. They've taken a stand against racism as an organization, and we've heard the question from our followers, how can we be an anti-racist company when your name is associated with a racial slur? And then they go on to then talk about it, and later they say, but despite its origins, it is an indisputable fact that the word savage was used as a racial slur to describe Native American and indigenous people for a period of time, and is still used today by some racist people. It is a fact that this word is still deeply offensive and hurtful to many people, and recognizing that fact is what ultimately brought us to the decision to change our name.
I know there's a lot of people on the internet that are stupid. I'm good with the reasoning. I'm good with a name change. I love what they're doing. I just VII just it doesn't roll off the tongue. It doesn't. I just think you can do better.
No, they to follow that, it says the VII or the 7 symbol has been a major part of our branding since we started. It has always been a recognizable symbol of Savage Apparel Company. The VII represents 7 players on an ultimate field. Because it's already a recognizable part of our brand, it seems the most natural we came to the change for our company. I'm just trying to read if
I would love it if they called it just like 7 Apparel. Like, nothing wrong with that.
Maybe that's taken.
It could be. I don't know.
They should reach out to you.
No. No one should ever reach out to me or you for any sort of marketing suggestions. I just hate. I know what I like and I know I dislike. I don't like the name VII. The product.
You should take it up with them.
The product is going to be fantastic. It's going to be high quality jerseys and apparel.
All right, I've made a post there for you guys if you want to further read on kind of what I just glossed over there. But anyway, that is certainly news and something that will probably also take some getting used to.
Shift One says dirt bike gear
competitors
company
and such
is 7.
Oh, there you go.
And that's fine. I understand if it's you can't take someone else, but it just doesn't roll off the tongue. I don't know.
Shift One photo asks, what did you think of the course in Vegas, Terry? That park looked kind of shady. It's a very, very populated park, and it is a good looking green space. When green space, I think, is kind of hard to come by that close to the strip and in that area, and it's a populated park with a lot of activity. We saw everything from wedding photos being taken to the fact that they're putting up $1 million pickleball court, the basketball courts, the baseball diamonds, the kickball, the family picnics. There were so many things going on in that park, and that is one of the primary reasons why we saw the now Las Vegas Challenge move from that park over to Wild Horse and explore other venues and opportunities, because there's so many things going on in that park, and then you bring in hundreds and hundreds of disc golfers. It just it doesn't all fit. And people said it in the comments. They said this is a reason why we don't see large scale events at regular park settings. And that is certainly a consideration. Now, I'll be the first to say, in talking to Jessica and talking to the staff and crew there, the first thing they tell you before you're to tee off with each and every group is they say, we are at this park. We have this park reserved for disc golf. We have a disc golf tournament going on here, but not everyone knows that. And I think that is a perfect way to word that. When you're talking about it, such an expansive park taking up so much land that people are trying to use for so many different reasons. Yes, we're there and we have to coexist. And yes, it's kind of annoying or frustrating that you have random people walking on or through or as part of the course. I get all of that. But to their fairness, like, think about how many times you could go to a park on any given day and randomly walk into an activity that you don't even realize is happening there. At the scale that disc golf is, I think it happens all the time. And we get annoyed and frustrated by it because you're the one out there playing and seeing it. But at the same time, you're at a public park. How would you necessarily know? Oh, there's 400 people here from around the Southwest that are all here competing in a Frisbee tournament. So I understand what you're saying, and that's why we are going to see our largest events will be on facilities and at parks and places or private places that can be fully managed and fully contained, as opposed to seeing them there. Did it work? Yeah, it works. And I feel like they tried to make a really challenging layout with that park. I think no matter what, you're always going to see lots of people at that park, and that can be a challenge. No, we didn't talk about this, Ray. That was a really good thing that you're mentioning. We talk about Mark Cuban posting a picture of Delonte West, I think that's how it's pronounced, playing disc golf. And I can't say that I know the entire backstory.
So Delonte West, on September 17th of 2009, West was pulled over for a traffic violation while in a Can-Am Spyder 3-wheeled motorcycle. During the stop, it was found that West had a 9mm Beretta pistol in his waistband, a Rutger .357 Magnum revolver strapped to his leg, and a Remington 870 shotgun in a guitar case across his back. Dude was packing.
Maybe he was just moving his guns from one household to another, and he was just taking them with him.
It sounds like he's had some issues with drugs or alcohol. He was in a rehab facility. Mark Cuban posted a picture of him playing disc golf and going kayaking, and in general being outdoorsy, hoping that his rehab is coming along. He's it sounds like, according to Ray, it's part of his recovery from drugs and a hard life. And more power to him. A lot of people find solace in disc golf.
Well,
we all love it, and hopefully, whatever issues he's having, he can, if disc golf helps him out, we're here for it.
For sure. Now, wasn't it just it was a week ago or so that Mark Cuban had run into him at a gas station or somewhere and had picked him up and was helping him out in some capacity? And then this is kind of a secondary, I don't want to say follow-up to that, but tell me if I'm getting my stories. I'm sure somebody will tell me I'm doing it wrong, but I feel like somehow Mark was involved a week or two ago in trying to help him out.
Yeah, there was a photo of him begging for money that went viral.
Okay.
And then Mark Cuban found him, picked him up, put him in a hotel room, and is helping him get his trying to help him get his life back together.
Yeah.
And,
good.
Mark Cuban seems like he's a dick sometimes.
Really?
Yeah, but ultimately
I don't
think,
get that from him.
I do a little bit, but ultimately he seems like he's a very, very nice guy. I just think it depends on the situation. Like, you watch him when he's out on the basketball court and he's the team owner. He comes off as kind of a D-bag, but ultimately I think he is really a good guy.
Well, so. Mark, if you're listening, I think you're really swell. And Johnny's
so and again,
he's
very
my
passionate.
favorite shark on Shark Tank.
On Shark Tank.
Yeah. I mean, he seems like a really nice guy. I've read again. I'm not a huge NBA fan or follower, I should say, so I don't know all the details. But from everything I've ever seen him, from more of a business perspective, on videos and interviews that I've seen, I've definitely seen him from that angle so much more over the years. I feel like he seems like an incredibly upstanding, generous, wonderful man. And I think back to the early times of COVID. And it shutting down the NBA. I think he was one of the earliest people to say, hey, we want to do everything we can to take care of all the families, all the people at the arena, everyone that we can that are missing out on, their salary and their income and whatever. And he wanted to, I feel like he was one of the first people from that sphere to really be outspoken about how he wants to lend support to the people that would need it most. So that's my take. And to wrap up the conversation with regard to everything I just said about Vegas, I do agree that you see probably some of those issues. There's been times where it's been challenged, whether it be Fountain Hills or Vista, because, again, there's such high-trafficked areas. They're doing everything at that event that they can to mitigate the idea of a passerby or a runner or a rollerblader or whatever. And I know they've put in a ton of precautions over these last few years to really try to limit any of those dangerous potentials or exposures on the course. But when you're in a warm, sunny location in a public facility or setting, it's really hard to sometimes then control the general public as well. And so you're right. I think that's some of the challenge that the Memorial continues to face and hopefully continues to address in the best possible way moving forward. So yes, I do agree with that.
Ray asking, Terry, are you watching the Mandalorian at all?
I am, now that McBeth just bought one.
No, that's McLaren, not Mandalorian.
Okay, then no.
The Mandalorian is the Star Wars offshoot.
With Spock. Yeah.
No, with
Spock's
with the Mandalorian.
youngest nephew.
Nope. Still not.
When Spock had a nephew, it was the young one.
Nope. Discovery.
Everybody loves Spock.
Discovery is with Spock's sister. Season 3, they've gone into the future.
Stop.
I'm watching that as well.
You're annoying me with it already. That's enough.
Mandalorian is awesome.
Okay.
It's very good. Like it is. Imagine you took a Western and made it a sci-fi. And that's honestly.
Oh wow, that sounds so
great acting. They brought in Timothy Oliphant,
okay,
who you would totally recognize. He's kind of he's like. I want to equate him to like a really great number 2 actor. Like you rarely see him. He was the head guy in Justified, but in general, when they bring him in as like a secondary kind of guy, he just elevates everything so much. He is just a phenomenal actor in general. And I was excited to see him in the situation that he was in.
Okay,
and
yeah, I remember seeing him when he was in Las Vegas, and then he went on to marry Fergie.
No, that's different. Although they do look a lot alike.
Exactly.
You're thinking Joshua Duhamel.
Yeah, sure.
That's even better pull right there. I knew the name.
I would have got there eventually, but really? No. Yeah, no. A Western meets sci-fi. That's what you just.
It feels like a Western.
Yeah,
but it's obviously all science fiction.
Just take every single one of the contacts that are in my medicine chest right now and just cut them in half. Yeah, one of my of my contact lenses. Just cut them in half.
Well, I'm sorry you don't enjoy good pulp.
I mean, with the way that you set it up, a Western meets sci-fi. Yeah, it just couldn't be any less appealing to me.
As Sam Martin says, Western science fiction. You mean Firefly, right? Firefly's phenomenal, and it's one of the things that's on my list of things to watch with my kid. So, as I've got the DVD series like right over there. But I don't even have a DVD player to play it on, so I'll probably find some place to stream it. I think it's on Amazon or something. So,
yeah. Anyone excited about watching Stranger Things new season? You got into that, right?
I did. I've watched all the Stranger Things. I mean, if it's sci-fi or anything related, I'm probably into it. I watched all of Lower Decks, the Star Trek cartoon, which was pretty good and funny. But I am excited for Stranger Things. So whenever it comes out, and
You're excited.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm excited right now, but when it gets closer to actually being released, I'll be much more excited. There's so much stuff I want to watch right now, and I just can't get to all of it.
Oh my gosh. What's the best thing you watched in the last week? Single best thing you watched?
Probably The Mandalorian.
Okay.
And granted, I mean, it's only a week. I haven't watched a lot, but Mandalorian was really good. I really am enjoying Star Trek Discovery season 3, where they I know it's not they go into the future, but where they go into the future, it's starting out. Season 3 is starting out pretty good, but it's still very early. It feels like they just really set the table right now, and we're gonna get into a real story soon. But no, Mandalorian is just really, really good.
Okay.
I don't think we've watched a lot else. We did watch Gremlins the other night down here on Halloween because the kids didn't go trick-or-treating. Did we talk about this last week, how I was exposed COVID through a brother-in-law? And
I never want you exposing yourself.
well, and so I took a test and everything came back negative, but we weren't 100% sure for my wife yet, even though no symptoms. I tested negative. She was waiting for her results, which took a lot longer. So we just decided to forego Halloween with the kids. We were going to hang out with some friends distance-wise, go do kind of like a scavenger hunt, candy scavenger hunt. But instead, we just hung out here and watched Gremlins. Holds up. Fun 80s
yeah,
flick.
that doesn't surprise me.
It's something you and your kids would watch. It's just in general good. There's one part that it's not scary, but it kind of made my son like he when it comes to scary things, he's really, really a wimp. And I'm not gonna like he just doesn't handle it very well. He's 11 years old and they put they put one of the Gremlins in the microwave. Spoiler.
Yeah, that was gross.
And it like blew up.
Yeah, I remember that wasn't.
And he did not like that. He was like,
no, I remember that scene vividly as a kid, and that was I did think that was disgusting because it always just made you think, obviously, the power of a microwave. But, that was a very disgusting scene.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, he did not deal well with that. And I had to tell him, like, listen. This isn't I wouldn't show you a scary movie. This is more of a comedy than a scary movie. And he enjoyed it once the gremlin messed with the woman's chair that goes up the stairs and it like spun her up and threw her out a window. And we all laughed at that.
I remember that.
And in general, it was a fun watch.
All right. The Wire is very solid. I've heard that from quite a few people. Daniel says, hate to ask, not a big fan of the discount double jack jerk. Packer highlights. I was doing something else. But what happened with the Packer game? The
we
Cliff
can't
note.
We can't stop the run.
Okay.
Ray Gremlins 1 is a Christmas movie, yes, but we watched it on Halloween because it's kind of that theme. We can't stop the run. Our defense is not very good at stopping the run, and Dalvin Cook just ran all over us.
Oh, okay.
And ultimately, Aaron Jones, our primary running back, is hurt. Our secondary running back, which is very good, we went away.
Edgar Bennett? Is he still?
It's not Edgar Bennett. It's not Sam Congato. It's not,
Dorsey?
It's not Dorsey Levens.
Dang it.
Nope, it's none of those. Jamal Williams. But anyway, they just went away from the run, and the Vikings beat us. And hopefully,
they're a terrible team.
They were 1-5. They were a couple close games, but ultimately, they kind of sucked too. And we lost to a sucky team, and hopefully that's their Super Bowl. And ultimately, we can go on and maybe make some changes to our defense, but who knows?
So something that the only takeaway I had from that after seeing that they lost is I feel like maybe the last 3 or 4 times the Packers and the Vikings have squared off, there's been a little bit of fun had between myself and Doug Bjerkes. He's a big Vikings fan. We talk a little trash. As you can tell, I'm very fringe when it comes to being a sports enthusiast. Some of these diehard sports enthusiasts, I'm very, very fringe. But I'm all in on talking trash and making bets. Those are way more entertaining to me. And so every time Doug and I have placed any form of wager, a disc or something of that nature, I've come out ahead. I think I have 3 or 4 discs now from Doug. And at no point did I see or interact with Doug prior to this weekend's game. And so no bet was ever made. There was no long or, just standing bets or anything. But no bet was made. And it was the one time in recent history that the Vikings had beat the Packers. So I felt I felt great about that in the sense that this is the one time we didn't bet. Sorry, Doug, but good job. Your team people got more points. Good on you.
Yep, good for Doug.
Oh yeah, it was a week ago tonight. Yeah, so we obviously covered
Excuse
it.
me.
It was a week ago tonight that the Dodgers had become the World Series champions.
And I think next week we're going to have Jeremy Rusko on the show.
Oh, that guy. He probably wants to lose a bet.
Maybe, but he's got some news we're going to talk about next week, so we can look forward to that. I think he's going to swing in for a few minutes and just drop some news on us.
Okay. That's exciting. Also exciting, and I don't think there's any coverage of it other than Murder Mike's Facebook page. There was a playoff this weekend out in Bakersfield. I know we talked to Steve Rico last weekend. Him and Chris Kesselhoff went into extra holes and canning a very long putt to take it down in the second playoff hole was Steve Rico. So back-to-back open victories for Mr. Rico here in the last couple of weekends. He's on a little bit of a tear, but big shout-out to Legacy's own Steve Rico. I know he took down the event this last weekend. Kingsley also chimed in and said that the 2011 AM Worlds, talked about in the regular show, was Tony Inzana was the TD. Sorry you got him mixed up with Steve Gans. They both have Z's and A's and N's, and Steve Gans, yeah, I can see that, but Steve Gans, of course, the one of the big powerhouse IT guys over there at the PDGA, who we were giving the props and the accolades to for the Aussie Disc Golf Day. Sam Martin, I hope. Whoops, sorry, I was just going to read what you said here. Do we see any notable players choosing not to tour full next year? Money was not what they had hoped. Life on the road run them down. First of all, I don't think we would see that post or those details yet. Second of all, we'll see how just really the state of COVID, the state of the PDGA and the DGPT and the national tour, we'll see. Some of those may be game time decisions for a lot of those players. If all those events are happening, you would think that we would still see them hitting the road. Is it going to be tougher for some of our players? I guess that's a good follow-up question there, Johnny, is a lot of our players that have to will actually kind of work during the off season, go work, we'll say a 9 to 5 or pick up a job wherever.
Some of them.
Some
I think
of
it's
them,
fewer
if they
and
have
fewer.
to, but they may pick something up and then try and bank that money, which is then what banks will be the support they need for going on tour for the year. That much harder to get a job in the off season. Or do you think we're going to see anyone in those types of positions? I mean,
I don't. Even if someone did take that position, I don't know if they're going to put it out there.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know if it's, and no one should be ashamed of putting in a hard day's work.
Nope.
But there is something to the illusion of being a pro athlete that you might not want to say, "Oh, I'm a pro athlete, but I have to work at 7-Eleven over the winter." Whether it's a respect thing or whatnot, I don't know, but I don't necessarily think we will for sure see anything like that. And I could be wrong. I'm sure some people will get a job in the off season or do what they have to do. So.
All right. Yeah, it will be in someone who I just saw chimed in online in another platform, Sarah Holcomb. I know she had talked about, going to Texas like she's done the last few years. I know that she's helped put up Christmas lights and worked with some other independent contractors to go out and put in very long days. And I think she's rewarded well for it, as she said, but puts in very long days hanging and taking down Christmas lights during the season down there in Texas. And but what a unique, that too, I always think like there's so many unique jobs and tasks and contracting that can get done that you would never necessarily think about ahead of time. Like, yeah, I love seeing it. I love seeing some of that creativity and that ingenuity that then follows to be doing some of those types of things. Someone had asked, Ray, talked about 3 weeks from tonight is when we'll see the Disc Golf Pro Tours Championship debuting and
on ESPN2,
coming out on ESPN2. Johnny, do we have any official plans for that?
We don't yet, and like always, we're not going to set any official plans until we get closer to the event. But it would make a lot of sense for us to maybe do some sort of watch party, and somehow maybe have us sit and watch it with everybody, and then roll right into a podcast, maybe talking about it or you know, or having
Or
somebody
full blown,
on.
yeah, show. Yeah, we could probably see something like that. Am I thinking correctly that we're looking at like a 5 or 6 o'clock local time for that? Does that sound right? I want to say 5 p.m. was the time that I saw Central, and somebody I'm sure can correct us, but I think it was at 5 p.m. So maybe we have an adjusted podcast that night if we have the 2 hours of the watch party and show, and then maybe have a little bit of the podcast that follows that, something like that. Might be the situation. Also, I mean, that's the Tuesday prior to the 15th annual Cold Turkey. So it's going to be a big preview night.
I might be playing in that Cold Turkey.
Well, see, we'll have special guest Johnny V, who might be playing in the event, he says.
I might. I got to figure out what division I want to play in, because I can't play.
You can play both days.
I can't play Am Masters. I'm too high rated. I missed it by like 2 points.
Oh, too high rated, he says.
The 937 rating I have, which is
too high rated, he says.
yeah.
Disc golf problems.
But maybe the TD won't check that. Maybe I can.
Yes.
I can just get in there.
I will accept bribes all day.
Oh, well, $2, one for each rating point, right?
No. Ray is saying 7 p.m. in Wisconsin. Okay, well, that would work out even better if it were 7 p.m. to 9 p.m.
And then roll right into the podcast.
Roll right in the show. Well, speaking of rolling in, I think we've got it all covered here tonight.
We just need to give away something on Patreon.
Oh, gosh, can't leave without doing that. Let's give away some action on Patreon. I'm not going to give away the new Crystal Luna or Crystal Fierce with the Disc Golf Pro Tour ESPN stamping and all that stuff. Those are not for giveaways.
We are giving away a McLaren.
Yes, ride in a
Paul
McLaren.
McBeth's McLaren. He may not know it.
Talk to Paul about the fulfillment.
I will give you his email address. Just reach out to him and let him know, hey, I heard I won this on Smashbox.
I feel like what he could do if he didn't trade it in is potentially we could give away one of his old cars as a Smashbox giveaway.
Like, here's a question for anyone that maybe owns a very high-priced sports car. Do they look at you funny if you roll up with like a 2009 Honda Fit, and like I have, and just be like, I'd like to trade this in on the McLaren, and they look at it, they're like, that's worth like $2,000. Like, you're buying a $200,000 car. Do they laugh at you, or is that not really existent? Now maybe you trade in a different sports car, but would you ever trade in a regular car to get a high-end sports car? I just don't see that happening. Like, right?
I mean, I donate all my spare cars to Rawhide.
You and Bart Starr? Does he help you out? Anyway, patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. If you would like to be entered into our weekly giveaway, you can do that on that website for as little as $1 a month, for as little as a nice beer at an airport. You know, some of you may not be
going, backwoods bastard.
Or a backwoods bastard, apparently.
Which are more expensive than old Chubbs.
Whatever he just said, I'm going to agree with him. Patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. Obviously, we have the different levels. I reached out to the $5 patrons who have recently joined us to get their one last chance to get that picture to me before I send the minis out to Dynamic Discs to Dymax. So if you're part of that, let me know. Our $3 a month patrons, as I see a few people jumping on there, it's last minute there, but we're going to be taking a look at that and hopefully getting our 2020 disc, our collector disc, set up relatively soon. We have 202 people eligible for our giveaway this week.
Boom.
Terry, what number should I use?
Wow. 322. We're on podcast 322. To carry the 47. I like the third number. It's November 3rd.
The third number. All right. So let's change that to that.
How are they sorted, Johnny? Ray wants to know.
I sorted them by email address, and for some reason, there it is.
Don't show anyone's email address, though.
I think that's it right there. There.
All right.
All right. So the third number, you say?
102 people sorted by email address.
First number is 198. A really
not a
high
winner.
Number. Second number, still not a winner.
Not
68.
not a winner.
The third number is 95. So I'm scrolling down
I'm
to
gonna
95.
guess that starts with.
This would be
starts with
Jeffrey
H.
Hill.
Oh.
He's a brand new patron, Jeffrey Hill.
Jeffrey, don't you go canceling. You're like I'm in and out. I jumped on, I won, and now I'm stopped supporting.
Jeffrey Hill, congratulations. He's at the $2 level, and this is, I think, his first month. So he joined.
Great. Talk about setting expectations.
I know, right away we give it to him. 11-3. He literally joined today. He joined
that easy, folks. All we tell you, sign up today at the highest amount you could possibly afford, and you win.
So you're saying he can only afford $2?
I'm okay with that.
No, so am I. But anyway, congratulations, Jeffrey.
Wow, Jeffrey,
how dumb luck.
Spoiled.
Yeah. So
spoiled boy, you.
Just missing it was Yen An and Jimmy Utterstrom. Well, just surrounding him. But instead, Jeffrey Hill.
Jeffrey. Wow. Seriously, we are. Sam says it's rigged. LOL. That's a few weeks in a row. Well, Jeffrey's loving it. So, guys, I think we're gonna call it. That's about it. Lots of other stuff going on over the next week. Looking forward to seeing you guys. I know I've got a little more commentary lined up with Eagle McMahon, so that we can wrap up some footage that we're going to be releasing to the world that hasn't been seen. We'll see how things check back out, and maybe by this time next week we'll find out who the president of the United States elect will be. Maybe not.
As of right now, it's very, very, very close, and many of the states still will have to count absentee ballots, which tend to lean Democratic, but not always. So it's. Wisconsin won't know until tomorrow. Pennsylvania might not know until Thursday, they say. So that's just a little bit that I've been kind of keeping up with. So hopefully by the time you guys are hearing this in the after show, we'll know who it might be president.
Maybe. All right. Who knows? All right, guys, we appreciate it. We love you. If you're a Patreon supporter or subscriber, we probably like you more. But we appreciate, seriously, each and every one of you guys for joining in, whether it be live or you're listening to us on one of your favorite podcast apps. For Johnny V, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, along with Kinga and Luke, who came in from Australia in the regular show, we love all of you, and we'll see you next week when you step inside the Smashbox.